Good morning everyone, it's went 10:30. I'd like to welcome you all here today, and I'll take this opportunity to remind you that the meeting will be recorded. Lucy, do we have any apologies?
Good morning everyone. We have 6 members present and have an apology from Councillor Dykes. Councillor Yen, Councillor McCutcheon and Councillor Eden Crothers are not present but may be along later in the meeting.
Item 2, declarations of interest. No. Item 3, minute of meeting of 30th of August is here for approval. Andrew, have to move
Yes.
Second. And we'll move on now to item 4, which is a scrutiny review, town and village improvements with Dumfries and Galloway Chamber of Commerce and Dumfries Retailers Association. We were meant to welcome both Rab Smith and Lee Med, but Lee's been called to Stranraer on business. So we have Rab here to dual role today. You're doing both roles in the Chamber of Commerce. I think you're a board member of the Chamber, and you're also Dumfries Retail Association. So thanks for coming along and giving us the benefit of your opinion on the questions that we'll be asking you today. We're currently reviewing what we've done in the town and village improvements within the region, sort of brought out to public realm as well and things like that, so you'll maybe get some questions from us on that. Remind everyone that the objectives of the review are in section 3.2 of the report, and I will open up the meeting to member questions and discussions. So I think if it's alright with you, Rab, I'll ask you the first question, then members may come in and supplementaries, and we've a sort of list of 4 or 5 questions you might ask, and then if anything you want to pick up, we'll do that as well. So I think the first question we have is, in your role across the 2 boards, how has your organisation been made aware of the shopfront scheme? Are you aware of it, and is it something that you've sort of engaged in?
I am aware of it personally. Organisation-wise, not so much, only because the contact I've had with council officials. I think in the main, most independent retailers really don't know it exists. We actually have to tell them, we actually physically have to tell them. I actually was around encouraging them to take part in it. There was a lot of apathy in it simply because most of them can't even afford the half, because we were giving them half at one stage, and the other, £5,000 out of their pocket was just impossible. I think it's a welcome scheme, in my opinion. I think if things were better and people could get access to money easier, then it would have worked a lot better than it did, because it really was a very low take-up. The last 2, we've done it twice. This will be the 3rd time.
I think the first time was more a general one. The one that was put in about 3 or 4 years ago, it was quite specific to smaller towns, yes, rather than Dumfries, Stranraer, etc. And I don't know if we'll be doing another one, but it's looking at, is it something that we need to be considering?
It's something we have to think about. I really think we need to spend the money just a wee bit better, a wee bit wiser. I mean, a lot of the things we've done in the town centre and the police, for instance, are welcome, but they haven't had any effect on the economy. Rabbie Burns Square, Mid Steeple, etc. I'm worried about it. The Dumfries needs footfall more than anything else. It's lacking sadly in footfall. Footfall is down nearly 50% over the last 10 years. Retail is in a very good place in Dumfries. It's actually taken more per head of population than most towns in the entire country. Trouble is 65% of it is out of town.
Just a clarification on that. The amount of money that was awarded as grants, was it up to 5,000 and then to be match funded by the shop? So you could just spend 1,000?
Yes.
Yeah.
So you didn't have to find 5,000?
No.
Even if you could improve your shop front or whatever else,
The trouble was that most improvements to shopfront, I mean, if you put a new shopfront in, you're looking at £15,000, £16,000 just for a small shop.
Yeah.
When really all you could do for £1,000 is possibly replace a board, a headboard.
Yeah. No, I just wanted to be clear that it didn't have to be.
Oh no, and that was explained well to
Yes,
me.
and that, okay. Okay, thank you.
Any other points in that one from members? Councillor Collins?
Thank you. I fully understand what you're saying regarding the increased footfall requirement. What would the shopkeepers want or see as an improvement that would enhance the facility and bring about an increase in footfall?
We need to get people in the town centre. We need to make it easier to get people in the town centre. We need to have more parking spaces. We've got a lot of illegal parking going on in the police. I walked around with one of the inspectors in the police and we counted 112 cars parked on WO lines. Simply because they wanted to get closer to the business than they could have been parking in Brooms Road or parking in the White Sands. We need to get, I mean, I'm not a big lover of traffic in the town centre, but I do now think we need to get traffic back at the town centre. It just looks like a ghost town. 80% of the day, that high street just looks dead. I walked up on Sunday between 2 and 2:30 to go to Debenhams to meet the new manager, and then went back to King's Coffee Shop to have a chat with them, and I met one person in the high street at 2 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. Now Sunday's a bad trading day now, but one person, you know.
Just getting back to the parking.
Yeah.
How would you feel it would be viewed if there was parking charges brought about?
Parking
There are
charges.
something in the region of 2,500 parking spaces around the town centre, outside of the car park, so the streets get cluttered up, as you quite rightly say, and that doesn't help free movement, whether it be pedestrians or cyclists. So parking charges has been something that's hung as a cloud over us, but we are the exception rather than the rule in the UK, not let alone Scotland, and not having parking charges.
I totally agree with you, but you see, we've not got a town that's worth spending £2 or £3 to park. That's the problem. All we'll do is drive people out to Tesco's. I mean, Tesco's manager says the best thing that could ever happen to his business is if we introduce parking charges in the Fries. Because people just won't pay it, and I mean, I agree with parking charges myself, personally, but I would only pay parking charges if I was getting directly to the business that I wanted to go to. Where do you park to go to Debenhams in the Fries? One of the biggest stores in the Fries.
Lawburn Street.
It's exactly, and you'll never get in Lawburn Street, not a chance. You know, it's, if we have a great offer, like Carlisle has, Carlisle's got a really good retail offer. People don't mind paying parking charges at all. And I would say that's the future for the Fries, definitely. I mean, I would like to see traffic in the high street, absolutely at 10 miles an hour, absolutely no boy racers, speed bumps, but parking spaces in the high street should be a premium, so therefore they should be charged £1 an hour.
You're touching on where I'm going with my next question here. You're speaking about 10 miles an hour on the high street for traffic. I accept that. But what about the concept of a covered shopping area covering from Lord Street to Burn Statue to Queensbury Square? How would that be viewed as an add-on, if you like, to enhance the town from a shopping visitor perspective?
We talked about that 30 years ago about the Venel, covering the Venel over, which I thought was a good idea in the Venel because it's not really a big traffic street. High Street, you've still got the problem of people not being able to access these shops easily. If you cover it and keep it pedestrianised, I still ask the question, how do you get to Debenhams? How does a lady get to Debenhams and pick up 3 big bags? You know?
Well, I look at the various shopping centres, whether it be Silverdale or Braehead or the Metro Centre or whatever, and once you're within these units, okay, parking is relatively easy.
Very easy.
The only worry is finding the damn motor afterwards, possibly. But the free movement of people separate from any traffic is a big attraction also in these places.
Yeah, but remember, we've only got 40,000 people in this area. Silverburn's getting round about 400,000 visitors a day. It's a heck of a difference.
Yeah, but you're
And also remember
talking
some-
about relative terms here.
Yes,
for goodness
sir.
sake, Rob,
It's all
because the
relative.
size of the town
Yeah.
and what it can offer at its best
But look what
is limited by
But look
comparison.
what Silverburn offers compared to the Dumfries. Not even close.
No,
Not
but
even
they've got a
close.
captive market which is
They've
good
got
by
a capital market and they've
comparison.
also got an amazing array of retailers there with a massive choice of retail. We don't have anything like that at all.
Do you think that Dumfries suffers from the fact that it's too big to be a Castle Douglas and it's too small to be a Carlisle?
Okay, we're stuck in that horrible vacuum in the middle because we used to, years ago when I used to come to council meetings, we talked about making it like a small Carlisle. That was never going to work because if you were to go to Marks and Spencer's and Debenhams, there's a bigger one down in Carlisle, much bigger. There's 3 times the size for Marks and twice the size for Debenhams, and takes nearly 10 times more money down there because they've just got the.
I'm horrified at the idea of people thinking in those terms. Dumfries should be Dumfries.
Yes, it should be.
Not a
Dumfries.
small version of Carlisle
No,
or a
exactly.
large
But
version of
that's
Castle.
what our thoughts were.
And there's
in
an
the council.
identity crisis going on
Yeah.
here very much that's jumping at me
Absolutely.
from what's been said.
But I don't agree with you us being too big to be a Castle Douglas. I think that's what we should be like, a big Castle Douglas. We should have loads of interesting, unusual, independent and national shops that attract people for a different reason. Because if you're going to go for a Primark are coming to Carlisle soon. We tried to get them to Dumfries. There was no way we didn't have enough population in Dumfries to get Primark. I talked to them on 3 occasions. They're looking for 150,000 people minimum catchment area. We don't have anything like that. Go to Carlisle and you'll have all these big units there. Come to Dumfries and have a bigger version of Castle Douglas. That's my thoughts on what Dumfries should look like in the future. We should have plenty of independent, unusual, attract all the sort of niceties that the little towns like, well, the bigger towns as well, like Stirling has, like Perth. I mean, Perth and Stirling, I was up there in Stirling 2 weeks ago and there wasn't an empty shop in the high street. Not a single one. And loads of interesting, unusual, different shops on the high street. We don't have a single independent on the high street, have we?
The surprise for me in Stirling is how cheap property is as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Andrew?
But the places you just mentioned, they also have their own local economy working within the town, in that you have residential properties above the shops. Until such time as this town actually gets that happening, I don't believe you're going to do anything for the town centre.
I sympathise with that as well. I think we should have more people living in the town centre. The trouble is we don't have quality houses in the town centre to attract that type of person.
But surely we should be starting to look at how we do get quality housing within those premises.
Yeah. I don't think you're going to get it within the existing premises. It's going to have to be new build. It really has. We've looked at this a few times at the high street to see how many shops could accommodate a flat above them. 4 shops in the entire high street.
Should we therefore sacrifice some of our car parking for residential properties?
Yes, probably.
There was a scheme sort of proposed once of a new council offices, and it was going to have a central atrium with 5 pods off it or something like this. And one was going to be for business. And I actually thought that was a good idea because if you could clear all the businesses out of Castle Street, I think they would make really lovely town houses.
That would have been amazing.
You know, because the whole. But that's what I would like to do, but I don't know if it's what would be seen as the way forward.
Well, Castle Street's got some quality properties in there that could become quality residences. Definitely. That's where I would look at for. I wouldn't even think about putting flats above shops. What young family's going to stay in a flat above a shop? You know, they're not. Where are their kids going to go? Where are they going to park their car?
But you do have the student market.
They can't afford a shop, the flat above a shop. That would be an expensive shop, a flat.
But surely businesses within Dumfries would take that, business personnel would buy them, do them up for students, as we see with the student accommodation in Edinburgh, Glasgow, or any of our other university towns.
I don't think that will help the economy of Dumfries. Much students don't have an awful lot of money to spend in retail in Dumfries. I mean, it's great to see students in Dumfries, but not above shops, I'm afraid. It wouldn't do much. They would buy the odd coffee and that would be it.
Yeah.
Alistair?
Well, as recently, I think it was at a town centre, I think that we talked about what's coming up on the horizon is the revaluation
Right.
of the rates, so that possibly might help in terms of
Absolutely.
in possible residential properties. Well, it was actually commercial properties
Yeah.
that are looking to be revalued. Before you came in, we divvied up some questions, but I think we've been overtaken by the debate totally. So I'll give my question in anyway, Chair, if I may.
Yeah.
Basically, which was, have you had any community feedback and information of increased business as a result of the shop front improvement scheme? I think we already said no.
The place is sitting, and my talks with all the retailers around small and big, the place is sitting in a funny place where a third of the retailers are doing okay, not too bad, slight increase on last year, a third are standing still or just slightly below, and a third are almost in the point of disappearing. That's the retail economy in Dumfries town centre at the moment.
Well, I think the crux of the question, Rob, was basically, has the shopfront improvement improved business in any of those shops?
Yeah.
So it's really the shopfront improvement as a cosmetic entity which we should consider in a much wider.
Definitely. I mean, it is nice to get a shop front, a new shop front in your shop, but when you're faced with the next one's empty, and the next one's derelict, and then the next one's a nice shop, it just
circus posters on windows.
it's like, I mean, both schemes I supported, the mid steeple, in the what's it called, Chinese granite area, and the same with the Rabbit Buns. They look great, but if you look at both these areas, these are the most deprived shopping areas in the face. There are no shops happening in Rabbit Buns Square. There's no shops down the side of mid steeple. So, although they look great, was it worth spending any money on them? Because we've got no benefit whatsoever in terms of retail.
It's cat and horse, isn't it? If you don't make the improvements, what chance do you have of attracting people in? If you attract people in, what chance do you have of keeping them if the surrounding area doesn't live up to the standard?
I mean, I think we did it the wrong way. I think we should have looked at possibly purchasing some of these shops and reconfiguring them that became usable in this day and age, and then do the street improvements after it. I think that would have been the better way around. I mean, I know it's a massive ask to go around and purchase all these shops up, but that would be the only way to get these shops back into living again.
Do you think if we brought is it double rates into empty derelict shops, that would encourage people to actually reduce the rental requirements? Because we looked at, before we got the shop we're in just now, we looked at Clydesdale Bank, former Clydesdale Bank, 40 grand to go in there. It was covered in damp, doors were coming off with fungus, pushing them off the hinges, and you're thinking, why would you want to spend £40,000 a year to rent a building that's going to cost you about 100,000 to do up? Do you think if it was more competitive priced on the high street, whereby small retailers could get the opportunity to actually start and then build their business, it would be
There's
better?
a simple rule, it's a Marks and Spencer's rule, that no more than 9% of your turnover should be your rent rates. So that's the guideline. You've got to look at it. I mean, the smallest shop in Dumfries, you have to take £2,000 a week just to stand still. Not to make profit. You won't even make a living wage at £2,000 a week. There's hardly a single small shop in Dumfries taking £2,000 a week. Not even close. And the reason they're still existing are like my shop. My shop loses money hand over fist, but I've got an entertainment business that subsidises it to a heck of an extent. And the other ones, like Knox Sports, he's got a job working at the academy as a teacher. Then there's Des Plants, whose grandfather retired. There's all these other reasons why these shops are still there. But once all that money stream stops, it will disappear. And that's the worry. It's really a footfall thing. We need to get more people in Dumfries, and then let the shops do the best they can to stay in business. At the moment, they've no footfall, so they've got no chance.
Take like the mid-steeple development we've put in the stage. Do you think it might be better if the council spent money bringing quality acts in there every Saturday to try and attract people into the town centre, so that they would then go and do some shopping, and therefore, because the footfall's up, people say, well, it might be worthwhile taking a punt on a shop somewhere to actually fill them up.
No, I don't think that would work at all, because I've got a lot of experience of putting entertainment at the town centre, and it does bring crowds in, there's no question about it, especially traditional entertainment, like the Scottish country dancers were the ones that we used to bring in, they used to bring a lot of people in. Mum and Dad would come and they'd have a coffee and they'd go home. They didn't really stay for any shopping, and the worst thing we did was put some rock bands on there. I love rock music, but standing in the mid-steeple with, what was it, Finding Albert, with 9 people watching it. I thought, this is a complete waste of time, and all we got were complaints from the jeweller, complaints from Burton's, complaints from the bank, it was too loud. I think we do need entertainment town centre. I did, and I'm not going to blow my own trumpet, but I used to do a busking competition years ago and we revived it for the last 2 years. That's the type of entertainment that brought people in and they stayed. All we did was put buskers outside Starbucks in the close at the Globe and outside the Coach and Horses, and it dragged the crowd in, and they kind of hung about the Coach and Horses, trebled their turnover that Saturday. Starbucks nearly doubled, not quite, but nearly doubled their turnover, and that's the kind of thing that kept it going. So, also I think we need a massive attraction. I mean, I've said it at council meetings 100 times in the last 30 years, but I'd love to see a replica of the John Paul Jones boat down at the bottom of the Bank Street in the Nith. That would be a massive reason to come to Dumfries, just to come and see it, just to look at it, just to, you know, it's something like that we need to drag people back in. But then again, if we drag them in, we've got to be able to make sure they can get to where they want to be. They've got to park their car easily. I mean, let's look at behind the Bazaar pub, turn that into a deck car park, and not a big horrible concrete monstrosity, a deck car park, and all the way up to Irish Street. That would take out 1,600 cars in one car park. 3 tiers high, 4 tiers high, what would you get? And it's central. We've kind of destroyed the Debenhams end of town. There's hardly any footfall down there. The footfall is all at this end, the Marks and Spencer's end. And that's the 2 draws. But there's just nobody going to that end of the town at all. And it's mainly because there's hardly any car parking at that end of the town. Most of it's in Brooms Road or the White Sands and up. I still think car parking is crucial to the future of Dumfries. Like it or hate it, 86% of all people shopping in Dumfries Town Centre come by car. 91% in Tesco shoppers come by car. The car is an annoying thing, but it's essential in this area.
If you introduced a deck car park, you'd have to charge for that too.
I would say, yeah, oh yeah. But make it like the Americans do. They put big deck car parkings near their town centres. But what they do is they give the first 2 hours free if you've spent money in the local shops. The shops have little franking machines. You take the car parking ticket in and you get it validated, it's called. You get 2 hours free.
Yeah.
The hour after that, it's going to cost you $5.
Yeah,
That's
they do that here as well. So
yeah, great idea. Early evening economy as well, that's another thing we could introduce in the place. We don't have any early evening economy at all. And it's getting worse because costs are now going to shut at 6 instead of 7.
Is that down to the fact that, as previously said, there's no one staying in the town centre, so nobody's actually
Absolutely, that's one of the big reasons.
actually coming
And
to
also,
the town centre?
the other big reason is that we've got a lot of nice restaurants around Dumfries, but they're all outside town. Every one of them are outside town. And I'm not decrying the Chinese or the Indian that's in the town, they're very good, but they're not enough to drag people in. We don't have a great steakhouse in the town. We don't have a great pizza place for kids and family. We don't have a McDonald's. We don't have a KFC. We don't have any of that in the town. And that's the sort of thing that people stay in the town for. A cinema. We need a cinema desperately in the Dumfries Town Centre. Not out of town, in the town centre.
Attractions, things that get you there at night.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
And reasons to keep them there.
Alistair? Andrew?
Yeah, I'm on the Farmer Authority steering group and we've been struggling for years to get some regulation. I'm just thinking you might have to build the Holloway shaft or in situ on the sands or dredge the river so that we can bring it in. But I
You
think
could construct it
riverside
in it. You
developments
could actually
are-
construct it in its site.
Yes. There's something else I was going to say that we heard the First Minister's latest pronouncement last week, and there was talk of, she said she wanted to roll out more reductions, to more, an extension of the small business bonus scheme. So I think little incremental things, I don't know if there's one big bang that fixed the whole problem. I think maybe it's little incremental ideas like.
I think we need loads of little, ideas definitely, but we do need a big bang hit to get people to come back to Dumfries and to use Dumfries as a place of business, a place of recreation, a place of everything, really. It has to be. Dumfries should be the capital of the entire region, the whole south of Scotland. It should be the first place you come to, and then you go to Castleberris and Gatehouse and all the really beautiful little towns we have.
I think this is reflected back to what we were speaking about earlier, that you don't have a roadmap laid out for a direction of travel because we've not got any end game actually in sight. That there's a number of aspects that need to be brought together. That the improvements of Burnstagg Square are improvements and they're a step in the right direction. But we're not travelling that road together because we don't have a shared view of what it is we seek. So none of what you've suggested in terms of interventions or the end game is not appealing to me at all. It's just not being brought together in any meaningful way that we could construct a future to look forward to in terms of that final outcome. I wonder, with the relocation of the hospital, is that going to have any impact on the town and the footfall, i.e. by way of reduction?
It should make the St Michael Street area a bit easier to navigate. That's the only thing I can see that'll help. I mean, we're still going to have some hospital up at the existing site. It's going to be easier for people to get to the hospital because you're on the bypass, there's no question of that. Economic wise, not going to make the slightest bit of difference. Kilnford will have a...
You don't feel that there's going to be a drop in footfall in the town with the drop in traffic going through the town to get to and from the hospital?
No, the traffic that goes to the hospital circumnavigates round Georgetown from the Lockerbie Road, Edinburgh Road end, and the other half just goes straight up the back and stand in my shop and watch it go straight up the White Sands up into the hospital. End of story. It doesn't, they don't stop off for a coffee or they don't stop off buy a newspaper or anything like that. There's no economic impact to the traffic going to the hospital. The vast majority of the traffic are people who work at the hospital. I mean, 800-900 cars up there of people who actually work at the hospital. You go for an appointment, you can't get parking space because the staff are all parked in the car parks.
Right, I'm looking down the questions that we've got in here. Andrew, you want to ask your...
Well, your wish has been, or going to be, partially met anyway. You're getting a ship in DG1, I believe. But that aside, getting back to the schemes that the short front improvement schemes, the quality of the workmanship that's been taking place on those schemes, do you think that we as a council are monitoring and are the shopkeepers getting good value for the money, and is the public purse getting good value for the money we're investing?
I mean, the shop front schemes that have gone ahead are pretty good. There's can't argue with the workmanship. It's turned out quite well. Unfortunately, if you don't have people coming through the door, you don't make any more money. And no matter how much you tart the shop up, unless people are there to actually come in and spend, it's not going to have any effect. It'll look nicer, and it'll feel better, but that's it. End of story. I was at an area called Aberkinney in Los Angeles where I go regularly, and Aberkinney was gunland. It was where all the gangsters hung out and everything. They've completely renovated the entire street. Haven't spent a penny in the shop fronts. They just cleared out all the bad people and put independent shops in. No corporates allowed in that area. It's teeming with people, absolutely teeming. You just can't move in the place because there's so many people. And all they've done is they've just tidied it up. They haven't done anything crazy. They haven't put massive garish banners up or signs. It's just tidied it was an old street anyway, tidied it up, and now the people are flocking there in the droves. They've given them something to come to, something to take pride in, something to take part in, and they charge a fortune for parking. But people will pay it if you've got a great offer. But you go to Edinburgh Zoo, you pay for parking because you've got to see animals. You know. If you come to Dumfries and pay for parking at this stage in time, you're going to be disappointed. You're going to walk around there and see so many empty shops. Why am I doing this? You know? We've also got, God love it, but Shakespeare Street looks hellish. And that's the main route into town. You know, if you think of a stranger driving past here, beautiful big building, Cairndale looks great, then you get to Shakespeare Street and think, what the hell is this? It looks like Beirut. You know, even the newer buildings are all covered in green mould, and you know, and then you get down to the Lordnell Centre, and I'm sure as a person who's never been to Dumfries before, you think, where the devil's the shops? Where's the high street? Then you get down to White Sands, and then you think, right, where do I go from here? It's not, we don't have, like you said, we don't have joined up thinking, we don't have a way of people to see this beautiful little town we've got, that's on its knees at the moment, but still could be brought back to being beautiful again.
The thing we should look again at the one-way system, because if you approach from Annan Road or even, I mean, how you directed into the town centre, you're actually directed away from the town centre, and you have to be have real local knowledge. If you're coming down St Michael's Street Bridge, you know, when you're coming along Brooms Road, you've got to kind of turn. Well, you can turn up Queen Street and then you turn right into, what is it, the one and then past the Catholic Church, and then if you're and then a slight left turn and then another right turn up the other part of Queen Street, because there's still, and then finally you get up to
and all the car parks,
only local knowledge.
Yeah, and the car parks are the first thing a visitor sees of Dumfries. So the park on Brooms Road, think about it, you look around, you think, where am I? Where do I go? You park in the White Sands, it's just as bad, because my shop's in the White Sands, but the White Sands looks awful as well. The shop fronts in the White Sands, you just park there, and how do I get to the town? The number of people that come and say, it's in a Marks and Spencer's way, how do I get to it? And you have to, you have to say up Bank Street, then take a right if you want to go to the back, or go straight up and you'll see a clock tower. You know, it's just so complicated.
There's also the fact that if you're travelling from the central belt, the first time you know that Dumfries exists, if you come from Glasgow down M74 or the Edinburgh A701 and then, or A702 and then to bigger, it's junction 13 at Beaton is the first time you see a sign for Dumfries. And I think it's even better on the A76 from New Cumnox. You see signs there, but it's Dumfries actually doesn't exist in Glasgow and Edinburgh.
We don't show it.
I think we're in the borders actually.
Yeah.
I keep correcting people, no, we're not the borders, we're southwest.
Yeah.
So, but then I suppose if you were in Edinburgh, you might not take a day's shopping in Dumfries, you might not
But
find.
if there was unusual, different things like pink umbrellas, I'm just being silly here, but you know, something different you couldn't buy anywhere else, that's the reason to come to Dumfries. The reason people go to Castle Douglas, my reason as well, I can get duck eggs in Castle Douglas. I can't think of anywhere in Dumfries I can get duck eggs. You know, so that's a reason for me to go there, and I spend money in all the little shops. I buy my bread at the bakery, and
You can get wine testing kits at Castle Douglas, can't you?
there you go. but Castle Douglas has got a reason to visit it, and it's also got easy access. Okay, you'll not find a parking space in the high street very easily, but you can park in the side streets and you still get easy access to all the shops there. We don't have that here. It's really difficult to navigate the place.
So what are the options for the chambers, the Chambers of Trade and the Retailers Association in terms of the future, because it's your future as well? What are the options as you see them in finding this roadmap and a way forward and working collaboratively, all of us, to get an outcome that's desirable and agreed by all of us in the main as an end game?
Well, the options for the retail sector is that they have to make money to stay in business. So therefore they have to have people in the shops to actually sell.
Which makes it all the more important that this dialogue takes place.
Yeah. We've been having a good dialogue with the council, with various people, members and elected members, for years. And we've always got on really well, we've always got, but we've never had the big hit. We need a big hit. We need something big. a big idea. We need to talk up our town. We need to make people, give people the impression, and it's not a wrong impression, that Dumfries is a great place to come to. At the moment, people don't think Dumfries is a great place to come to.
So what role do we have, or what role do the planners have in that big hit and taking that forward?
We have to sell Dumfries better. We have to show it at its best. We have to pull out every promotional tool we can think of to make people realise Dumfries has got a lot going for it. I get people coming up to me all the time. A couple from Annan came to me and says, "Oh, we don't come to Dumfries, there's no shops." 253 shops in Dumfries. There's loads of shops, just that their perception is there's no shops. You know?
I suppose if you come down past the mid steeple, the perception is there is no shops.
Exactly. And go down the valley, the perception is there's no shops. The only area you can see that's well populated is that area around Marks and Spencer's. And the worrying thing is, I mean, I know the area managers of Marks and Spencer's really well. If their footfall keeps dropping, they're not going to stay in the Dumfries Town Centre much longer. And if they don't, we might as well shut the doors, because that's the biggest draw we've got. It's sad that it's the biggest draw we've got, but it is the biggest draw we've got. Debenhams isn't a draw. Debenhams is suffering badly just now.
Just on Debenhams, you know, that was meant to be a big hit when Debenhams came. That was meant to.
Great location, great store, great
But
store.
but it hasn't delivered.
I asked the area manager why he came to Dumfries, and he said that 2,000 customers from DG area are using our store in Carlisle, so even if we can get half of them back in Dumfries, that'll be great. A year and a half after Debenhams opened, I asked the same area manager how many people from the DG area are now using their credit cards in the Carlisle store. He says it's increased by 10%.
Joking. Really? Okay.
Just along the street from where I am, there's a wee shop sells Harris Tweed. Now, what she's found is she's a small retailer, and it's the shop front for the Harris Tweed company, whereby they all come in there, "Oh, that looks nice, and that looks nice, oh yes," and they go home onto the computer, tap it in, and they can get it retail price, trade price rather than retail. So they go there rather than support the local retailer.
We can't.
How do you rate that? That's one of the big problems you've got.
Yeah.
My wife will go and shop in Carlisle. Why does she go to Carlisle? Because if I go into Marks and Spencer's here, I get 10% of what I could get down here because they're so much bigger.
That's right.
Same with Debenhams.
Yeah.
You see, you get a taste of what you can get elsewhere. So I'll go elsewhere.
Yeah.
Plus, you've also got the fact that shopping now isn't what it used to be. Shopping in the olden days was you went to the grocers, you went to the greengrocers, you then nipped to the butchers.
And the fishmonger.
Now you have one big shop and the rest of the time's leisure time.
Yeah.
How do we get that back to the fact that people want not a chore, what it was in the olden days, having to go and do your shopping, but you want a leisure activity of enjoying something. And the easiest way to do that is I'll nip in the train for, was it £5 or £6 down to Carlisle. Now, and I get more because, as you said, the big stores are going to come to 150,000 people rather than come to 40,000 Dumfries, where actually they're that daft. We don't have to pay for the expense of taking this stuff to them. They come and get it and they get the cost of it. But they don't see that.
No.
So how do we reverse that?
You're right, you're totally right. I mean, that's the reason the Panasonic store closed in Dumfries in the Lobner Centre, because people are coming in demonstrating the TV to them, and then they went on the internet and bought it cheaper. You'll never get away from that, because 15% of all retail nationally is going through the internet, it's no question of it. And the bigger shops like Marks and Spencer and Debenhams are benefiting in Dumfries because of that, because they get click and collect. So if you order something from Debenhams, it costs you £7 to get delivered to your home, free if you go to the store. So the idea is you go into the store and you might buy something else. So that's great. But again, there are a lot of great quality, small independent shops that you can't find on the internet. I mean, my shop is doing all right because we sell vinyl. Records are hip again with the kids. And they come to us because they can actually see it, feel it, touch it, look at it. When you buy it on the internet, you might get a scratched old red thing that comes through the post, you know? So that side, and there's loads of things like that people would rather touch, feel, walk away with than actually go to the internet and buy. You'll never stop the internet, it's there forever, and you'll never get your butchers back or your fishmongers, because Tesco have got that covered completely, and then so have Morrison's and so have Aldi and so have the whole crew. But we still, again, look at the Castle Douglas template. Look at the Moffat template, it's looking good just now again. Look at Thornhill, it's a lovely wee town, it's tiny, but it's got loads of interesting shops, and all these little interesting shops are busy. You know, they don't have a butcher's anymore, hardly. I think there's one small butcher's in Thornhill now, but the rest of the little shops are doing all right. But again, they're cheap. Shops, you rent a shop in Thornhill for £50 a week. The cheapest one in Dumfries is £100 a week, £150 a week, minimum. One thing that has helped the shops in Dumfries, the smaller shops, is we haven't paid rates for 4 years now. Every shop with a rateable value under 10,000, we've got 0 rates, which that has definitely helped. If that was to stop though, you'd see a massive downturn in the small shops.
Sorry, Chair, that was one of my questions. I wondered, you know, if the rates, if we could extend it, you know, to encourage shops and things. I don't know if that. Well, I've got Paul here from the finance department. I don't know whether how you view rates and things in Dumfries as a means of helping businesses. I don't know.
Well, it's mainly based on national schemes, but there was also discussion of leafs that individual councils can look at, but it tends to be for specific purposes. I'm not sure what the kind of proposal would be, but it's something that could be looked at, and we can see whether we have got the ability to make some changes to support particular areas.
Particularly if they're trying to start, presumably, and it's a start-up. I mean, there's an awful statistic of how many businesses start and fail within the 12 months or whatever. You know.
See, at the end of the day, you've got to look at the retail trade as it's a commercial enterprise. So they don't mind paying high rates and high rents if their turnover's high.
Of course they do. Of course
You
they
know,
do.
and that's the low rates and the 0 rates for under 10,000 is great to get people going, but unless we see an increase in the turnover, it really is not worth it, because at the end of the day, if they're still turning over the same amount of money and making the same small profit, we're going to get nowhere. We need to get them up to the 2,000 a week, the 3,000 a week, the 4,000 a week, then they start employing people, and then they don't mind when they get a rates bill through the door that's £3,000 or £4,000.
Yeah.
I think that's the same as parking. You don't mind parking if you're getting what you want.
Like one thing, we had this discussion earlier about turnover. I don't think turnover's a good thing. I think profit's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely.
Because
Profit's the only thing that's
there
important.
was an old farmer who used to go to the bank with a £10 note, and he said, pay that into my account. And then he'd say to the lassie, right, can you draw me out 2 fivers? So he got in the face, what did you do that for? Well, it's turnover. Not made anything, but it's turnover. Profit's what we want.
Oh yeah, definitely. And profit for a small business is more crucial than it is for a big business, because a big business like Marston's business can run in a 1% profit margin and make good money when you take 350 stores. A single business can't possibly run in that profit margin.
No.
Because they've got wages and everything else to come out of that profit margin.
Right, Andrew?
I was going to ask about the town centre market. Is that just a gimmick? Does it detract or add value to the town?
I think a town centre market is a good idea for a town like us. We have to be very, very, very careful. I think to have it every week's too much.
Yes.
I think once a month on a grand scale would be better. And not a continental market. I mean, that was a complete and utter waste of time. It came from Birmingham, for heaven's sake. It was run by a guy.
Yeah, but Chair, I don't want to, but it was something new, and it was to try and get people in, and people were interested.
Didn't work.
It didn't work, did it?
Well, I'll tell you why. There was 3 people selling wine in the continental market. 3 different stalls selling wine.
Okay.
How they got licenses to sell wine in the high street, I have no idea whatsoever. But it killed TV Watson's.
What I don't understand is why is it the farmer market moved out to Dar rather than staying in the town centre?
Because I wanted them in the town centre and they were going to come into the market behind me, but TAF said, we'll give you more discount if you stay with us. That's perfectly acceptable, that's their business, you know? And it's a good footfall for them, great footfall. And also, they make sure that everything that's sold in that market is not sold in that unit. That's the other secret about markets. You can't have markets coming in selling bread. We've got 4 little bread shops in Dumfries.
Yes.
Wine, 3 places selling wine round about them. Clothes. I mean, there was a terrible situation at the last continental market where there was this massive shoe stall, which was 4 bays wide, opposite a shoe shop.
Yes, no, absolutely agree with that.
We can't do that. We have to make the market unusual. I mean, markets in Durham are a great example. The Durham market's amazing, it really is. But the first choice of stalls is the people who have shops. They get first choice, and any stalls left over, then people from out of town could get it. In fact, they don't even do that. They insist that the next choice is people who live in the Durham postcode, and then they'll invite people from that town.
Yeah.
But I think once a month is enough for
Yeah, I leave the meeting because it touched town market, which I run the Saturday market. For conflict of interest, could I leave?
You've declared it. Do you feel that you need to leave at this point?
Yeah, if you're going to talk about town market, because I run the Saturday market,
Right.
I'm a shareholder. So,
Yeah. Well, it's your decision. If you feel, could you note that you have declared that interest for that reason? Bring you back in when we've got past this week.
so the market is there every week?
every Saturday. There used to be 2 markets in Dumfries, one behind the bazaar and one behind me, down the White Sands.
Yeah.
There still is one behind me in the White Sands, but it's pretty poor. Thompson, Roddick and Laurie own the market, and Stuart Thompson's done a good job in tidying it up and making locked up stalls. And there's only 4 vendors.
Okay.
And one of them's tools, and it does drag people in to buy tools, but that's it.
See, in a town centre market like Sederunt, what could you sell that isn't sold in the town centre?
Loads of things, tons of things. We've got a great arts and cultural situation all through Dumfries and Galloway. There's a great photographer at Lauriston who could come in with some beautiful photographs. Okay, that's
So
expensive.
Brian Sherman, who has a shop in Dumfries.
He doesn't sell portraits or...
Yes, but if you know what I mean.
Yes, oh, I know, I see what you're saying.
I would actually say one of the things that comes in is a greengrocer that comes in and sells in the market. I don't think, other than Parry's now at the bottom of the Venel, there's another greengrocer in the town where you could go and get apples and oranges and stuff.
That's the Spencer's.
But it's not, it's a big multinational and it's expensive. You know, they sell quality. If you're wanting a good, reasonable quality at a reasonable price, well, Marks and Spencer isn't your retail outlet.
No, it's not as crazy as you think it is, and I agree with you, it is more expensive, but we had a great little greengrocer down at the bottom of the Venel on that, what used to be a fish and tackle shop, and it lasted 8 weeks. It came from Grass Douglas, and it was a quality greengrocers, no footfall, no turnover. 1 week, the entire week, they took £35, the whole week in business. Then we had another greengrocer in the Venel, lack of footfall, they disappeared as well, and then we had one in where the betting shop is, it used to be Rankins. It failed miserably as well because there just wasn't enough turnover. So we have had greengrocers in the past, but they've all gone because they just can't exist. We don't have a fishmonger in the town. It's one of the shops we need desperately in Dumfries. There's not a fishmonger. Okay, you can buy fish from Marks and Spencer's and Tesco's and Aldi and Liberty, but there's no fishmonger. Used to be one in Bank Street, it's gone completely now. I mean, one of the reason shops that's still doing well is Moggerly's, the butcher's down the Venel. I mean, he's sitting in an area with dreadful empty shops round about him, and yet that little shop does well because it's quality, it's good service, it's well presented, shop front looks amazing.
Right, there's 2 or 3 points I think that we maybe need to just touch in the questions, although you've answered most of the points.
That's okay.
If we go, well, Patsy was going to ask the second one. I think that you've answered the first part of that. Maybe the second part, Patsy. If you want.
Which was just that, you know, you've been round your various members of your organisation to see if they could want to be involved. But could the council have done any more to get them to take up the opportunity, or do you think it was just that they didn't have enough cash?
I think the cash was the most important thing.
But we can't, you know, the whole point is, you know, it's not right just to hand out money,
No,
you know what I mean? That doesn't sit well either for private businesses. So what else could we do then on that front? And could we have done it in a different way?
Yeah, I think we could have. I think Business Week was quite good. Not amazingly successful, but relatively successful.
I'm not familiar with that. What was that?
Business Week.
I don't know what that was.
Sorry, Business Week, we just had it 2 weeks ago where it was a free forum for people to come along and learn new business techniques.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
That's the kind of thing I think maybe as a council should be investing in. People who can, you know, I have a friend who was the mayor of San Francisco. I know it sounds grand, but he was a friend for years. And his the small retailers in San Francisco were struggling badly, so he set up a team through the council of business advisors, financial advisors, window dressing advisors, stock taking advisors, a team of people that Marks and Spencer would have in their store anyway. And they went around all the small businesses and they gave them advice on how your shop would look better. We had it with the shop doctor, we rented the shop doctor for a little while. He was okay, but it wasn't quite up to the mark. But something like that, a bit more professional, that would help a lot of small retailers. Because a lot of the small retailers just set up with what they think will sell, and they've got no database or no background to realise that that's not it selling just now, you know?
Do we have anything like that,
Or stock control.
It's stock control, because that's a big thing, you know?
that they can access? I mean, maybe the council doesn't have it, but we must have, we used to have, what's his name,
Scottish Enterprise.
yes.
Special enterprise, yes, that's their role, that's what they used to do.
Are they not available anymore?
They don't.
They have sort of work streams they work to now, whereby they have, like say, agriculture and food and drink would be one of the things,
But they wouldn't-
tourism would be another, retail will be in there somewhere, but then the manager for retail may be based up in Edinburgh or Glasgow.
Do you think that's the reason that small businesses are not doing well, is because they're a bit naive when they go into them and they don't understand?
Especially the new ones, the new startups. I mean, I can give you a dreadful example. A little company that I actually helped, even though they were competition to me, Jurassic, the record shop, the two boys that got paid off from HMV,
All right.
we gave them a lot of money through the business gateway, through the council, through various grants last year, and they were set up perfectly. They hadn't a clue how to run a business. And it didn't matter how much money we threw in, they still would have gone bust. They went down on 20-odd thousand, actually on top of all the grants they got, because they had no idea. You know, they talked to me quite a few times. Black Sabbath brought a new album out, they ordered 50 copies. There's not 50 Black Sabbath fans in the entire region along the Dumfries, you know? And we were selling it as well, and so was Gordon and Banston. So they had no chance. We actually, Gordon and I bought the stock off him just to help him out a little bit. But he had no idea. They just thought, oh, I like that, so everybody else will like it. And that's the last thing you do at retail.
Yes, absolutely. Okay.
I think, see, if you give someone a new shop, just let's say we pay for it 100%, we don't have to put any money up. That doesn't mean to say that shop will be successful. But if you give them a nice shop window and show them how to present a window that makes people stop and look at it and then maybe go in and buy, I think that would be a better incentive than anything else. I mean, if the window frame was just a little bit tatty, but the goods inside it looked amazing, you'd probably walk in. If the window frame looked amazing, and the sign above looked amazing, but the shop front, the window dressing was awful, you wouldn't walk in.
Yeah, no, I get that.
So I think, I know a lot of businesses will be negative towards advice because they think they know it all. I definitely know a lot of people like that in the place. But I still think it'd be a great idea to give them almost like an independent stroke council-led advice bureau, you know, on everything. How to get your shopping into, how to dress your window, as you say, stock control, everything like that. I think that would be a better way to spend the money.
Yeah.
For the smaller shops anyway.
Okay, that's interesting.
Right.
And that would work region-wide, not just the phrase.
Well, we are a region, small.
See, I also think that, see, that same team, if you could put that team together, that same team could be great ambassadors for the phrase, because I sincerely believe that there are shops in Keswick and Kendal and Durham and that possibly would think about opening a shop in the phrase, but they've no idea how to do it, how to go about it. I'm sure we could put a wee sales team that could say, look, there's a shop here in the Frees that would suit you, there's a wee bit of help, come in and try it. See, that's another thing that I think would encourage people to come to the Frees. And if they were even moderately successful, that would start the ball rolling. And people in Edinburgh would start saying, this guy's doing well in the Frees, let's see what we can do in the Frees.
It was highlighted during the floods in Leighton Stewart. There was one guy who was interviewed who sold out nowhere, whose shop was in Keswick, and he'd opened a shop in Leighton Stewart. So yes, it does work and it does happen.
Definitely.
I think we've covered most of the points. The last point that we had was planning and how planning affects town centres, etc. Do you think there needs to be more input from planning, and through the planning process, should the council be looking to get planning gain? I think the term is whereby, as you said, there's a big retail outlet purchased the bottom end of High Street. What could we be looking for to say, well, you're coming in here, this is what could help the town to improve your prospects and improve the rest of the town?
Yeah, I think planning in Dumfries, it wasn't my words, this came from Director Matt Spencer's quote. Dumfries Planning Authority was the worst we'd ever dealt with in the entire country. Okay? And the reason was because when Marks and Spencer's got a £4 million refit 15 years ago, 12 years ago, they wanted to put a thin green line around the store, which signified that this was a brand new Marks and Spencer's. All Marks and Spencer's throughout the entire country that renovated had a thin green line. It's just a thin green, didn't light up, but it was just a green line. And we refused it point blank because it was in a conservation area. 2 weeks later, Subway and Costa opened up with gigantic, big, bold signs, and they got planning. No problem at all. So a planning's not, it's not consistent. It stutters a lot. Poor old JJ, Starbucks is not a Starbucks in Dumfries, it's a franchise in Dumfries. It's owned by a guy called JJ O'Hara. He was getting his windows put in every Saturday night just about with the kids coming out of distance, etc. And then eventually somebody destroyed his sign. So he decided, that's it, I'm going to refit the front of the shop. It took him 9 months to get planning for his new shop front. They shouldn't have to go through that. That should be instant. As long as it looks good and it fits with the rest of the town, do it, you know? We did have I've talked to Jason regularly and you about their ideas of planning, and there's this sort of feeling that we should make all the shops look the same, but you'll never encourage anybody if all the shops look the same, because, you know, shops have corporate ID, they have corporate identity, and they need that corporate identity to attract these people in. So we can't say all shops should be white when Marks and Spencer's green or Debenhams are red, you know, it's... Yeah. But we need to speed this planning permission up, we need to, especially with shop fronts, etc. We have to make it easier.
As associations, do you meet with the director?
Alistair,
so the planning
Alistair.
side, rather than Jason and
it's
you,
Alistair Speedy, is our
meet with,
contact.
Steve Rogers,
Yeah.
who's actually the planning development sort of stuff,
Yeah.
whereby, look, when you're doing your plans, these are the things that are affecting our businesses. This is what you need to A, relax if you can, or B, tighten up on where you need to. Do you get?
We don't meet with, no, we used to meet with Peter Bulmer.
Yeah.
Regularly when he was the head. He came to a meeting. We have a meeting every third Wednesday, which is actually tomorrow night in the calendar, every month. And Alistair Speedy's been very good. He's been at every meeting for the last 6 or 8 months, so he takes back any planning concerns directly to them.
Yeah.
And to be fair, on the Starbucks one, it was still didn't have planning way back in April and May, and the month after Alistair went back, explained the problems, he got his plan.
Mm.
So at least Alistair did pull it. So we use him as our contact, basically, for anything like that at all.
And do you feed into the, like, we're going through the LDP just now for the next 5 years, still got a couple of years to run for this one, but are you feeding into that process as well?
We haven't yet, but we should be, yeah, definitely.
That's something we need to check up on to make
Yeah.
sure that we're actually discussing those issues with Dumfries retailers and the Chamber of Commerce, giving them their input.
That's definitely one we should take part in that day.
And planning gain, if there's things to happen in town, do you think we should be looking to do that to improve things in the town centre?
I think planning gain, I mean, what more could we do? I mean, Debenhams took that site, a lovely site. I mean, it was very successful as a Littlewood store. But in the time Littlewood's opened up, we drove right up and parked outside the front of it. So things changed through the years. I think the stores, it's not a great location because that end of the Dumfries High Street is dead, but it's still a great site to have a store in. We just have to get people to them easier, and it's so difficult. Lordman Street is the only place you can really park if you want to go to Debenhams. And Lordman Street, you'll never get a space in Lordman Street. You see them queued up down Lordman Street trying to get in the car park every day of life. waiting for a space. And then once you get in that car park, again, you're in a car park with a derelict building there, a closed, remember the outdoor shop, can't remember his
Matty's.
name. Yes, it's closed, and so you're standing in there and you think, where do I go from here? If you're a stranger, you don't know that Dead Rose is only through a close, and then, you know.
But you've got a nice little coffee shop just along the road.
Yes,
But I'll declare an interest at that point.
Come along, this little coffee shop.
Andrew,
Are there any examples in Dumfries whereby your organisation has actually achieved or worked on the bid scheme that's out there?
We've talked about that many times.
Why
Again,
is
it's a
it
financial constraint. The bid scheme's a great idea.
Right.
I like the whole idea. Jason and I went through that for the last 2 years. We looked at it. We could get some of the big boys interested. Marks Spencer were interested. Debenhams were interested. New Look were interested. Boots were interested. But you know how bids work. You have to take the whole area, and then every small retailer that's in that area has to stump up a relative amount of cash. That's the stumbling block. And again, the bids. I mean, we talked regularly about what could we put a bid in for, and the only thing we came up with was promote Dumfries. We thought a massive TV campaign, a leaflet drop campaign, hit all the tourist spots in the Lake District campaign. You know, that's the only thing we could come up with. And then we fell flat in its face, because once we started talking to the retailers about it, the perception of what would bring people to Dumfries, 100 people, 100 different ideas. It just fell apart in its ears, because there was no consensus of opinion of what would be the best way to push Dumfries. And also, we got a bit of advice from Jason and also you about, you know, should we really be promoting Dumfries when it's not at its best just now? Should we wait till it gets to its best before we really promote it heavily? So that's as far as we got with the last idea for bids.
That's not a scheme that you go through to look at putting your ship down in the river.
That is a great idea, but you see, again, you're stuck with the possibility that down the river there are loads of small businesses and a big empty bank. Where do you get the money from the people? Because you've got to stick to that area to pull the money in. Okay, you could go back to the high street and ask for that space, you could, but would they be happy contributing 20 grand a year to a scheme that might benefit a new Sainsbury's that opens up in the White Sands, because we've got loads of people down there? That's the difficulty of bids. It's not uniform. It's not.
Right.
It's a great idea, but it's just, unless you get the entire town in. I mean, Scrutiny is a great example.
Right.
They really were flying, and then it fell apart. And it's because when you put 50 people in a room, you're going to get 50 different ideas. You're better coming up with one great idea and then getting 50 people to come on board and help push it, rather than get involved financially, because that's where it always falls down. Again, if all these businesses were making loads of money, it'd be no problem. Sorry.
I think we're sort of drawing to a natural close in this one, aren't we? Can I thank you very much for the evidence that you've given us today. It'll be put back into our review, and I think it'll help us quite a lot in making our recommendations. So we'll just go to the recommendations just now, which we've received the presentation, and are we all happy to agree that this evidence should be added to our review?
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you for coming along, Rab. You are most welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, but if you have other pressing engagements you need to go to, you are welcome to leave as well.
Open the shops half an hour, so. Thanks very much for your time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just ask something.
Yes.
I noticed, on the review of this, at 3.2, it was public realm improvements in key towns. I mean, we've dealt with Dumfries in detail,
Yes.
but we haven't gone to Lockerbie, which had quite a lot of work done in it. And I just wondered how we find out if that has were, you know, they've had their ship up and you know, they've revamped everything and it's meant to be all singing, all dancing, and you know, I just wonder if that has helped the smaller shops and things in that high street or not. How do we know? Do we know that?
I can find out. I can.
Because I think we have kind of.
You can do a desktop exercise. Jason will know.
It would be interesting, you know, because we have just dealt really with Dumfries here this morning, and you know, it's not, and you know, and Dalbeattie that had the shop doctor, and I don't know if that's made any difference to that town or not. And you know, and I'm not too sure. I don't know anything about
And sort of some short improvements that have helped the look of the place, whether it's helped
but
football, I don't know.
But you know what we were heard today was that the look is very nice, but it doesn't increase it. Well, it might not help to increase footfall. What I would say is, if you don't have a looking half decent and it does look an awful down the heel place, you're definitely not going to get footfall. So we just seem to have been a little bit tunnelled on this one, just primarily because Rav is on the place, which is fine. I mean, a lot of good points.
Right, so maybe you can get some feedback from Jason on that. If he could give us an idea of the feeling in other areas. Move on to item 5, scrutiny reviewing town and village improvements, actions and next steps. Reports in front of you. Gillian, anything to add to the report? I'm just happy to take questions and present them.
I'll just take questions.
Members, got the note the progress and action taken for the town and village improvement scrutiny review and agree the next steps as appendix. Are we happy with the proposals with regard to the appendix? Brian?
Yeah, and so far as town and villages is concerned, I've not seen any mention of villages at all in the context that I recognise villages.
Yeah.
Certainly not Dalbeattie or Annan or Lockerbie, but I'm more inclined toward the New Galloways, obviously, and gatehouses of Fleet and so on and so forth. But I see nothing of any substance that represents their interests here.
I don't know if there's any schemes that are identified in the villages to help us to actually go and say, you know, here's, we're down at Wigton, but Wigton's a town. Thornhill may have been a possibility, but I don't know if there's any work done in Thornhill for an actual, but my understanding under what people see themselves as Thornhill's a village, whereas you know, if you've got a royal chapter here a town, therefore that's how they look at the sort of thing they do. But I don't know
again, insofar as villages are concerned, the pressure comes on the council, for example, where lottery funding might be achieved to save the village shop, but additional funding is required or additional activities. So what is our rationale as a council around those situations? And how do we deal with them? And how do we expect officers to respond to any request for support that might come forward? And it can be quite an invidious position that not only officers but elected members can find themselves in certain circumstances.
I can find out what's happened in small villages.
Or if we're not going to include villages, then take villages off the paper.
Yeah, I think the scheme that was put in place was the town and villages, and I don't know if any of the small, well, I think them more small towns rather than villages. Any villages, something like Amesfield, where you've got row of houses. But I think that's worthwhile asking. You know, did they get the same sort of support? Were they actually encouraged to put in aspects of? I don't know if Thornhill had any.
I'm just thinking of like in my ward, you know, the likes of Twynham. I would wonder if Twynham shop would know that they might have been eligible. Yeah. You know, they're very independent. They do their own thing in their own village. would they known about this scheme? I don't know.
I think it was targeted to certain areas because of the size of the region. I think it was actually targeted, but I can check.
And what would be interesting to know is if there wasn't a take up, or if there was, it would be interesting to know if there was a take up, if it was because of the match funding that was required. But you know, quite a lot of them, in Kukubra they've done some, so they must have taken it up, and it hasn't been a huge. I mean, it has been a little paid quite often, which presumably is not too expensive. I think if you're doing a whole new front, then it's a big difference. But quite a lot of them would just do a lick of paint and smarten themselves up a bit. But I would wonder if the small villages with a village shop were aware. It would be good to know if they took it up, or if they didn't, and why they didn't take it up. Because I'm sure they've done.
So we'll add that on to the sort of information that will come back.
That'd be good.
Right.
Thank you.
Right, with that, are we happy to note the progress?
Yep.
And review and agree the next step, so we've added that extra wee bit of information to come back. Now move on to item 6, scrutiny review, procurement commissioning review of phase 1, progress and update. Members will be aware we have previously reviewed procurement and full council accepted the recommendations that we put forward from this committee. Karen Scott here today, who is the council's new procurement and commissioning manager, and she's here to answer any questions we have on the recommendations, and we also have Paul here if there's anything Karen isn't up to speed on or hasn't just got her head around yet. Paul will try and answer that. If it's really awkward, then Lorna, it's over to you after that. So we have the review here. Do we wish to just go to the appendix and work our way through that and see if there's any questions with regard to the objectives and the recommendations, where we feel that we need to see if there's something to be done to move it quicker, or if it's complete, then if there's anything we need to review if it's not working well. So objective 1 is to review the implementation of the new arrangements for procurement. Progress there. Is there any issues with regard to that? No? Are you happy with that? Seem quite happy, there doesn't seem to be an issue. Objective 2, to consider the council's plans for the future, taking into account national developments.
Just trying to, sorry Chair, I'm just trying to follow the thing. And have we got this subcommittee with a forum, including elected members? Has that happened yet?
No, the Policy and Resources Committee is it's not a subcommittee. The Policy and Resources Committee will be the forum for monitoring.
The entire committee. So why does it say here that it was going to be a forum that should have?
It's an initial suggestion that may be something we want to look at, but we feel it's better, and it was agreed through Policy and Resources Committee itself, that the more appropriate forum for consideration and scrutiny of procurement activity would be through Policy and Resources.
Okay, so that shouldn't be there. That will come out.
Well, it's basically all we've done is really reflect on what was previously suggested,
yes.
And it's actually the right-hand column that kind of gives you the current position on that.
Okay.
So we're quite happy that Policy and Resources are the team committee. Don't know if we can do much about it now, and I think they'll have the oversight of the budgets anyway, so it'll be most appropriate.
What we try and do is we coordinate between the financial monitoring and the procurement monitoring, so in the same agenda each quarter you get information on both.
We have the performance information, and there's an infographic. I That's a new up to me. Sounds good. And Appendix 2, a picture. And members. Does somebody want to talk us through the infographic?
Yeah, absolutely. It's in draft form at the moment, but it's to give you an indication of the type of information that I thought would be of particular interest to members. And it would be this type of information at a high level that allows people to quite easily see where we are in terms of progress against the procurement strategy throughout the year. So that would be a kind of one pager that would sit with a report at the behind that to explain over the last quarter progress that's been made in relation to procurement. So it's focusing on sort of key areas of interest that I would believe would be of key interest for members. So we've got a section that just outlines the actual contract activity, so where we are in terms of compliance, savings, etc. But also looking at community benefits and social values. So where our procurement spend with our contracted suppliers is actually making an impact direct into local communities, and then also focusing on our suppliers and where we're actually engaging with SMEs and local suppliers and how we're performing against targets. So like I say, it's in a draft form at the moment, but I'm happy to take on board any comments as well if there's anything else that members believe they feel would be of value. But the intent would be, as Paul said, to include this with the finance report on a quarterly basis with the detail behind it.
See in the capital savings, is that always a good thing? The reason being, if you spend an extra 100,000 maybe doing something like a revenue benefit, which would then cost avoidance future.
Yeah.
So you're not setting hard targets of it's got to be 25 million for a swimming pool if we can get for 22, but you know, the plug hole doesn't fit in with the water leaks. I wonder where that could come from.
Absolutely, and the intent behind the capital savings, and I suppose that was more information that would sit behind this. The intent is to actually demonstrate where, through an efficient procurement process, we've actually generated efficiency savings within capital projects, which actually allows for that funding to be reinvested further within that capital project. So, for example, a swimming pool making £3 million savings would actually allow us to spend an additional £3 million on more efficient outcomes for that particular project.
Any other questions on the infographic and the monitoring? Yeah?
Actually, I have some questions. It's about Appendix 1. Maybe I just missed before you asked Appendix 2. Is that all right if I can make some comments?
Well, we're going through each sort of thing on Appendix 1. So when the point comes up, the reason I went to Appendix 2 is because it's an infographic on this one. And if you've got a question on either 1, 2, 3, as we go through.
My point's not even in the Appendix 2 because it's not included in. For example, in 3.2.2, the objectives of the review were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I could not find the reference to 4, 5, and 6.
Sure, we can explain. Those were the objectives members set in conducting the review. Councillor Gay, members of this committee agreed the recommendations following that review, and that review was taken to full council over a year ago, and full council agreed the recommendations. So the officers are responding to the recommendations from this committee that were accepted with full council. So the objectives of the review were a reminder about why we did that review. I would also remind you that the commission review, the review was split into 2 parts by this committee because it decided it was of scale. So the procurement part has been reported here, but the commission review was taken to full council, I believe, in March, and it was agreed, and there'll be a vote on those parts of the recommendations in relation to commission that will come back to this committee. So it's only part of the procurement commission review, it's phase 1, and it relates to parts of the recommendations because the committee agreed to split its review into 2 parts at that stage.
So the 3.2.2's 4, 5, 6 will be coming back to this committee at a later date.
Yes, it was felt that procurement was one part of it and commissioning was the other. To do them both together would be a lot of work, whereas we've done them in 2 parts, and the commissioning one should come back will be later this year or possibly into the next council as they have time to have a year to embed the recommendations.
So my concern is to, especially third sector, they have no idea what's going on with the council. There's no information about commissioning. They are worrying about the next financial year of funding as well, but they have no information and there's no, leadership strategy from this council, which is worrying.
I'll take those remarks by Councillor Ian to raise a question. I think we'll speak to you with the committee, but certainly in terms of the recommendations from this committee that we gave in March with the council, my intention would be to make sure the committee's had feedback and all its reviews that have been agreed from council, and at least have completed its programme as well. So that might be.
So we'll work through the rest of Appendix 1. 4, mandate the use of PCOS across all services. Says it's complete. Are we moving to full use of PCOS?
We are where it's possible to do so, but there's been recognition that on some occasions it would create potential for duplication of effort for officers. So some of our other systems, for example, in social work, they use framework system called Framework I, which actually creates a care package and generates the payment, whereas because we will never deal with the payment aspect of it. So on occasions such as that, where it's not appropriate to do so, then we won't be, but for all other occasions, we are progressing with the implementation of PCOS. We've got a project group set up at the moment that's actually dealing with areas where we've not got full compliance at the moment, so we've been working quite hard on that over the last few weeks as well to try and address the individuals where we've not had compliance.
And are you finding that non-compliance is an issue? Or I still want to go and buy my pencils out of Marks and Sparks instead of the Waitrose bar?
Yeah, it absolutely is, and I think part of that is about just actually working with individuals, so where we're having those issues, trying to understand why we're having those issues, and a lot of occasions it's about training and educating our client departments as to what the kind of wider impacts of what they're doing actually is. There's the figure, probably correct me if I'm getting my figures wrong, but it's about £12 for us to actually process some of these other transactions. So it's actually costing us £12 to process something that's only costing us £1 to buy. So it's trying to make sure that people actually fully understand the implications of what they're doing, because the majority of the time where we have had non-compliance, it has been with a lack of understanding. So as that sort of awareness raising continues, then I would hope to see that transition kind of goes
So we're still using carrot and no stick?
We're using a bit of both. Now the project group that we've set up, what we've now got is monthly reporting that's going to be undertaken, and so from that we're actually going to get a list of named individuals which we're escalating to senior management team where we have particular repeat offenders where no longer can the excuse be that they didn't know and they didn't fully understand the implications of what they were doing. So we've kind of closed all of that off at the moment. So going forward, the intent is that we're going to be doing monthly reporting that actually shows percentage performance across the board with a list of particular individuals who are, for whatever reason, choosing not to comply.
Name and shame, eh?
I would just say it draws attention to the lack of inflation over the past 2 years, because it's been 12 quid for these transactions for about 2 years now.
I think just enough, the exercise that Can's referred to that she's led over the last couple of weeks, it's identifying instances where PCOS should be used and can't be used, but isn't being at the moment. And I think although we've had the policies up to now, there has not been sufficient compliance across the council, and now we're working through Can and our team in terms of supporting, and forcing is not the right term, but actively persuading service managers to ensure that the key council policies are being used and we're getting efficiencies as a result, and that means actively going out to deal with the managers where that's not happening at the minute, to ensure that it is addressed going forward. That's something the last couple of weeks we're making inroads into.
Any other points on PCOS? No. Standing orders?
I just see that we're going to change, update the procurement standing orders, and the strategy is going to be extended to suppliers, providers and members. Is that good? I see that on page 17. When you say members, is that going to go to P&R committee then? Is that the way it's going to be done? Yes. And it's going to be done throughout October, November. So how soon do you expect to have a new sort of strategy for procurement standing orders? I mean, is that going to be
The intent is that the final version will be available at the end of the calendar year,
Right.
and that will be published on the website. There's also a requirement under the procurement legislation changed quite significantly in April of this year, so part of the procurement strategy updates and standing order updates will reflect the changes in the legislation, but within that there's an obligation now on the council tax to publish their procurement strategy and contract register, and thereafter an annual report, so that needs to be complete by the close of this calendar year in terms of the procurement strategy. So we have a procurement strategy at the moment, however it's not reflective of everything within the new legislative requirements. So
I'm not sure when we have our next policy and resources committee, presumably it's November.
22nd of November.
And that will allow you to get it to full council in December, will it? Yeah.
No other points in standing orders? Happy with the response. Objective 3, consider how the council supports local private businesses in relation to procurement. Help them implement approaches to support local businesses. Were the events any good?
Did it produce any? We always want, sorry Chair, we always want to encourage smaller businesses to come in. Is it working?
one of the things I've been looking at since I joined is looking to actually see how many, because one of the things in the events that the Supply Development Programme always push is to get people to register on Public Contract Scotland, our kind of advertising portal for the public sector. So what I'm finding is that we've got really high numbers of suppliers within D&G that have already registered, but when that actually filters through to how many then view the contract opportunities, it reduces by about 600. We've got about 700 suppliers registered. It comes down to about 150 who actually view contract opportunities. That drops again to about 60, where we actually see how many are submitting a bid. So for me, there's a big piece of work to find out actually. It's fine getting people to come on to these events and take the key message home to go and register, but they're not actually then able to see it through. So that's one of the things that as part of this piece of work, we're going to focus on actually what's happening to that 600 once they've registered, why are they not submitting. As part of this, the update on the standing orders, on the back of that I'm also doing a review of our standard documentation and looking to see how does our documentation actually put a lot of local small suppliers off. So they get a 200-page document. Of course, they don't want to look at it, so how do we actually set that up? And working with economic development as well, I've agreed that we'll actually have a series of events that are actually targeted at particular industries. So at the moment they're quite generalist, they're quite general events that have been run in the past. So what we're looking to do is actually have more targeted events, so you don't have a roads contractor sitting beside a child minder. So we'll have an event where we've got a child minding framework coming up, where we actually focus on this as the type of documentation you're going to get out. It's coming out in 2 weeks, so there's a live opportunity immediately after they've attended the training sessions, so that it actually is still fresh in their mind and it's meaningful to them, and they know whilst they're in that session, this is what's going to come out, and it's going to be talking about the live documents that we're actually working through and taking on board some of their feedback as well before we actually enter the live tender process. So hopefully that will be a lot more engaging, and then we can monitor sort of what the impact of that is in terms of the number of suppliers who are just registered to those that are actually able to submit and go ahead and win contracts for the council. So that's been set up across all areas of the business.
The companies that are registered, when you say you're looking at it, seeing how many actually then view contracts, is it viewing our contracts or all contracts on the site, and are they actually looking maybe to work outside the region rather than within the region?
At the moment I've not looked at that, but I'll look into it. At the moment I've just looked to see actually what impact that having on council contract opportunities and how many local suppliers are actually picking up on our opportunities. But I've not looked to see how our businesses are looking further afield. My initial thoughts are going to be that it's actually they're just not doing anything beyond registering. But I could be wrong. I'll double check on that for you.
And are you able to sort of drill down if the one-man band who's registered is actually getting work off, maybe the guy who's got 20 workers and is subcontracting, is he finding it easier to go that way because, like you say, 200-page document, he can't do it, but the sort of medium enterprise may be able to handle that and then subcontracts to him.
As something we can't get in terms of system reporting, but that's the type of feedback that I'm looking to ascertain as we're actually doing these supplier engagement events. For me, it shouldn't be about us just talking to the suppliers, it's about them telling us as well so that we can actually inform our approaches going forward based on their feedback.
Alistair?
Yeah, it might be more appropriate to talk offline with you about specific case where I received representations from a firm saying they hadn't been given the opportunity to bid. Something I better do away from public forum. However, if I could comment on the current position here, and I wondered if the supplier development programme and scheduling events to provide training to local businesses on the new European single procurement document. I presume that might now have been overtaken by events, or perhaps it would be a brave person who forecasted what's going to happen with Brexit and all that. Does anybody know?
We don't know what the impact's going to be. However, the concept of the European single procurement document is something that was actually always very favourable within the Scottish Government as well. So I don't believe that even with the implications of Brexit, that type of approach and that type of document would change significantly. And obviously there will be some implications as a consequence of Brexit that will come about further down the line, but the concept of having this single procurement document, the purpose behind it was so that companies only need to fill in this document once, irrespective of where they want to trade. And part of the discussions that are going on in relation to Brexit is around actually can we still continue to use this European single procurement document so that it will support our businesses if they're looking to trade across the border out with the UK. So that's one of the points that's being discussed as part of the Brexit discussion, is actually that we want to maintain use of that document to support our own local businesses in that international trade. So I think there absolutely is still a need for us to do that. The use of the ESPD document was mandated on us for all over European threshold contracts, and has been suggested by Scottish Government as best practice for anything over what's now termed regulated, so any contract over £50,000 for goods and services and 2 million of works, we must use this European single procurement document, which is quite a fundamental change, and it is very restrictive. We're very limited in terms of how we can adapt that to particular processes. So that's one of the kind of key documents that actually we need to spend, and we can do that through the supplier development programme in a kind of more general way to try. So once the supplier's completed it once, the intent is unless anything changes for them, they don't need to complete that document again. They can just submit it to get them through what's kind of the stage 1 pass-fail type part of the tender assessment for suppliers.
Can I come back? Yeah. That gives grounds for hope that we might have to jettison this. This seems useful, cuts down in terms of work. Is this document used in non-EU European countries, for example, like Norway?
No, not that way.
Alright, okay.
Andrew?
How soon do you think you have more accurate timeline details? I mean, you're aiming for 2017 to have this meet and greet for suppliers. Is this going to be at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year? Have you decided an optimum time of the year you feel you should have it? What's the line of thought?
The intent would be to try and link it in some way to the business week. We had some initial discussions, but I had just recently joined the council at the time, so it was felt it was probably not the most appropriate time, given I was looking in a couple of weeks at the time that the current business week happened. But the intent would be, I still went along to some of the events, but the intent would be to actually have something a bit more structured and have some form of meet the buyer. And some of the other business weeks in other parts of Scotland do have that sort of meet the buyer type event where we'll have a particular room we can bring public sector buyers from across the region, or potentially out with the region as well. I know that I've been asked, even since joining Dumfries and Galloway, to support some of the other business weeks in other areas, and a sort of meet the buyer capacity. So again, we'd look at bringing in other meet the buyers, other buyers from other public sector bodies in other regions, to actually come along, and so we'd have a room of public sector buyers that our businesses would be able to meet as part of that week. So the intent is that it would be round about that week, but I'm going to have some additional discussions with economic development and broker do that through the chamber as well, get the chamber to be involved in facilitating that type of thing.
So would that just be the one event, or are you talking about multiple of events that will be spread around the whole of the region?
At the moment, we've had a discussion on having one sort of key main event as part of Business Week, where that would be, I don't know, it's been an initial discussion at the moment, so we'll firm up on that. But in terms of the programme of events that are targeted to particular areas and the additional training on the European Supply Procurement document, then they would be across the full region. So for example, we're looking at sort of how we set up some sort of strategic framework agreements with our roads contractors. And so there'll be a series of events around the region targeted at roads contractors. So we'll be moving to them.
That's it.
It's just this horrifying 200-page document. Is that what you're trying to move away from when after altogether? Presumably you do have to have.
We do have to have it, but for me, part of kind of my thought process is how we structure that document. So at the moment, everything goes into one document, and that includes the questionnaire that we're asking suppliers to complete. Therefore, it's all sitting in one document. So my intent is to actually break it down. So there's some things that are fairly standard that when we do the supplier engagement events, we can talk through and explain to them. So you'll have a document that is your instructions to tender. This is explaining how you go through this procurement process, and then I'll talk them through what's in there, what they need to do. So when they open the document, they can, in effect, in that session, be writing a note of the documents. They now know what's in there. They don't need to open. They can open it if they want, but it means that someone's explained that to them already. We'll have another document that will be their terms and conditions. Obviously, if anyone wants to go and seek their own legal opinion and advice on that, then they can do, and it means it's sitting in one document. Quite often these are relatively lengthy and take up a lot of the documentation that we're issuing, but it means that they can see there that if they want to just go and get legal advice, and that would be the aspect that they would do that on. And again, we can set out what our parameters would be for negotiation on things like terms and conditions, and how we're going to come to actually ascertain what the best terms and conditions for us to use. So we'll be looking to use what's kind of recognised within industry, and where our officers are confident in actually understanding what's in there. So I'm working really closely with Rona Lewis and her team just now as well in terms of what terms and conditions we're using, and where we're using different industry forms. So again, that can then sit as a separate document. We'll have a specification, so that's a document they absolutely have to go and read. And generally speaking, depends on what the service is, that can vary in length, but that sets out exactly what the service is that we're looking for, so they'll know that that's the document they need to focus on. They need to go and read that document. There'll be another one that will be, this is the document you need to complete, and this is sort of kind of top tips of tendering. This is what we mean by these questions. Sometimes, and in particular with the European Single Procurement document, some of the wording's not great. So again, part of that would be to give them a kind of one pager that sits in the front of that says this is the type of thing we mean by that. So it won't get away from having all the information in, because we do need to have it there, and that's why it's always been there. But for me, it's about perhaps how we structure that and explain to them what's actually in there, so that it can be a little bit less daunting for them when they actually open it up. They know that out of the 200 pages, the one they focus on is the specification at 20, and someone's explained to them already what all other information is. So.
Right, seems to be that one. Ensure effective arrangements are in place for payment of subcontractors, including, for example, project bank accounts, to afford local companies the maximum security possible. Does that stop local companies bidding in where cash flow may be a problem?
It's not feedback I've received to date, but I would imagine.
Because, you know, if you have to pay your subcontractors within 30 days, but you bill the council, it's 30 days they have to pay you, so it could be 60 days sort of working out if you're getting out of kilter. Because I've had somebody raising this question, it was about taxes, and how the fact that it's gone from, it used to be able to get his money at the end of the month, to it's 30 days guaranteed that it will be paid within. And what happened was, the money didn't come into his account, he was overdrawn because he had to pay his staff, etc. So there was issues there, so it's maybe something we need to look at
Yeah.
how we actually do that. But that's maybe not on the same scale as this looks more like major capital projects.
Yeah, I think the recommendation was focusing predominantly on major capital projects, but the principle would apply throughout. And I think another part as well, where this has been happening in practice already, so is perhaps more a bit about how we police that as well. And so the council signed up to getting some additional reports now as well that actually let us see the average payment terms to supply chains and things, so we can monitor that as part of our contract management on an ongoing basis. So there's some work done on that already, and the Scottish Government have obviously looked at setting up a project bank account, which again starts to alleviate some of the issues of actually how long it takes us to pay them to pay. So actually it's set up a project bank account and it can all be drawn down from that kind of common pot. So the Scottish Government have just recently, the last month or so, issued some guidance on that. And so we're building that in our standard processes for capital projects already.
Just really, it's probably a very stupid question, but you know, you put project bank account, capital letters, capital P, capital X. I mean, I assume that's what is the project bank account?
It's in effect an account that gets set up at a project level. So if we've got like a large capital project where we've got one kind of main contractor who's got a number of, for example, local subcontractors who are delivering a lot of the work, instead of us saying to them, you need to pay your subcontractor within 30 days and then they need to pay their subcontractor. So by the time it actually that money gets down the chain, by the time it gets the kind of smallest guy at the bottom of that chain, it's taken such a long time. So the idea of the project bank account is the council would pay into this at a kind of top level, and then each of the supply chain can then draw their money down directly from there, as opposed to having to wait and it going through all the various systems of payments.
Okay, now I get that. Thank you.
Okay, with that one, objective 4, which was the major capital projects, private sector contracts are monitored and evaluated. And objective 5, to consider whether best value is being achieved in capital projects. Two of them are sort of linked. First part was the improved contract and supplier management. Any questions on that? And one of the ones that sort of used to come out of that one from Councillor Dykes was contract management. A contract manager is different from a procurement manager. Have we progressed as far as we can on that one, or should we be training some of our staff up to make sure that contract management is actually embedded in the system as well?
Part of the training that was undertaken earlier this year was actually focusing on actually having our operational project staff being able to do the contract management side, and so on the back of that, as part of the review of all our standard processes and documentation, I'm also going to be developing some additional documents that will support them following the training we've already received to assist in that contract management piece. But over and above that, then my intention is to actually do a review of where our kind of core areas of spend is, and actually have a structured approach with the procurement team to do the supplier management side. And so part of that again we'll be working alongside the contract managers to actually, so there'll be clear roles and responsibilities in terms of how that works, and the documentation and reviews will be very, very different. So there'll be standard agendas and things as well for contract reviews compared to supplier review. So it's not complete, but we're working through that.
Andrew?
This is seeking clarification on the Prince 2 training that's been delivered to officers. That's a sort of two-based training, isn't it? Two parts to it.
Yeah.
Have those officers, or will those officers be going through both parts? And not only that, the officers that have or are going through it, will they still be in post thereafter, or are they part of the management restructuring?
I'm not sure.
I think basically what we're trying to ensure through the Prince 2 training is we've got that project management competence across the council. And whether individuals are affected by the reshaping or not, obviously we're still need to manage the capital programmes going forward in individual projects. So we will now have a body of staff within the council officers who are capable of managing projects. If we need to add to that following the reshaping, we'll do that, but it'll become part of the norm in terms of ensuring that anybody that takes on a project of this nature has that detailed training and support behind them.
And how will we as elected members be reassured that that is being updated and maintained? Where will that be, which committee will that be going to? Will that be going to Resources Committee or appraisal or?
What point was that to?
Well, it's just
to ensure that the council is
to maintain that standard of skill.
I mean, certainly as part of the kind of ongoing capital monitoring, we will report on the competencies of individuals that are managing projects. So we'll make sure through policy and resources that you get that information as part of the overall report.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm interested in the lessons learned template that can be shared learning across the council. Can this be shared in the Connect, the website Connect, or is it only to be shared with staff, not elected members?
Is it something that, well, do we want to tell people where we've got things wrong so that they know where to go looking if they're bidding in? I don't know if it's something you would want to sort of publicise. I think members and officers should know about it, but I don't think lessons learned could give somebody an idea of where to go if they want to catch us out again in future.
The intent of it was to have it as an inward document so that we actually can share best practice and share from any lessons that come through, and the intent is to actually have more of a kind of formalised approach to how we actually capture lessons learned, and having more regular reviews at the end, in particular of procurement processes, and having somewhere that's documented and actually informs future. So again, when we're looking at future strategies and things, then they'll be informed by lessons learned. It's not something that's intended to be an outward facing document and could create some additional work in terms of how we would need to actually present that information. However, where there's pertinent points coming through, then again that could be something that forms part of the kind of quarterly updates through to policy and resources, where there's something that's pertinent or of particular interest to members, then where it's coming through from lessons learned, that could be presented in an appropriate format to be shared in that manner.
That's it.
Yes, it's requiring the use of open book accounting to improve transparency. Have we not had open book accounting in the past?
Not to a sufficient extent. I think it's something we need to develop further going forward.
So what more are we going to get? Just reams and reams of figures, are we, that would baffle us?
It's not just the sharing of information, it's sharing of cost and price information between the client and the contractor to ensure that there's full understanding of what's driving costs, and there's that kind of shared information between the two. So it's just an improvement in terms of project management and
is that for all projects, or do you do it for bigger ones, or will it be across the board?
I think that at the moment it tends to be bigger ones, and
yes,
mainly through the ones through the hub, and they tend to be the larger projects, but we'd look to extend that further, particularly for our main. If you remember, the capital programme's got a number of priority, what we call priority, try to ensure that it's in place for all of those and the main ones within the asset classes as well.
Okay, thank you.
Over the page, the last one, South West Hub. Take it that will come forward as and when there's evidence and progress on the South West Hub to bring it to us. Any other questions on that one? Right. Move to the recommendations. We're asked to consider the update and implementation of the recommendations from the Procurement and Commission Scrutiny Review. I think we've done that. Agree to receive further updates on progress. We'd be happy to do that because it was quite informative. I think what we've got today shows that actually, hopefully we are making a difference and keeps us up to date. And note the development of information in a graphical form illustrated by Appendix 2, which will form part of future regular reporting to elected members. Members happy with that? Yeah. Thank you. Very informative. Thank you. Now move on to Item 7, Scrutiny Review, Public Involvement, Feedback from Preparatory Workshop with representatives of the Community Council. This report provides an overview of the discussions from the Preparatory Workshop. And Andy's here to answer any questions. The way we usually deal with these are members who are present. Is there anything we feel isn't actually in here that was discussed? I think it was a fair reflection of the meeting, Richard.
Yeah, that's fine, I think.
And open it up to the other members who weren't able to attend that day. Is there anything in there that we'd like to ask that maybe we can reflect back on and say, was it discussed at the time?
I noticed this health and social care integration public involvement consultation was it just a very small advert in the paper to get it going? Because it's really quite a big bit of work, and I'm surprised that there wasn't more put out to communities to get involved if they wanted to.
I'm not aware of it, but maybe Lorna.
That was the feedback that came from Margaret Sanderson, and it was the only reason somebody had mentioned to her it was in the paper, or she'd been flicking through something, she noticed it in the public notices.
That doesn't seem very good for something that's really, quite a big project and quite a big change.
That was her reflection on it, and I think she mentioned in the discussion that that was something she almost stumbled upon in terms of she stumbled across a meeting, rather than something that was picked up through engagement through the community council. So that's an interesting point. I think that obviously that was led through the IGB and through the Health and Social Care organisation. That they are not necessarily communicating with the community council or seeing them as an engagement partner. There was a sense of that from Margaret, but one of the things that we agreed with the chair and vice chair at that point would be that we pose the same questions to other community councils. So we weren't clear whether that was something that was particular to them or it was something that other community councils felt as well. So we would find out a bit more from that question.
So that's maybe something that that board needs to be aware of.
And my understanding that's going out this afternoon.
Absolutely, that questionnaire will go out to all
I think
the
I can go
councils
to
this
press a
afternoon.
button on my computer to send back a reply to Andy. Any other points on the information that we received from Mrs. Sanderson? Right, with regard to that then, we considered the evidence and are we happy to agree this should be added to the evidence gathered for the public?
Great.
Move on to item 8, scrutiny review, public involvement, feedback from elected member questionnaire and paper-based research. This report outlines the results from the paper-based research to answer the gaps we identified at the previous committee on this review. Andy is here to answer any questions arising from the report. I hope you all took the time to fill in your comments.
Scrutiny didn't do very well.
Not late in the day. Suggest that.
Number one.
Did members find it easy to access?
Yeah.
No?
If you
I
ignored
must
the
have-
first email, you.
I must admit, I opened it 2 or 3 times and it wouldn't open up. And then eventually, about a week after it came through, it did open up. So that was the only thing I found out.
Like at the last minute, I have to say.
There's 2 emails though. The first one was
Yes.
the wrong link.
Right.
Yes, that was right.
And the second one was the.
I think the second one, I tried to open up, it just went a black screen, but it was just where I was accessing the internet from.
What is disappointing though, I mean, if you take away the 11 committee members, it means there's only 8 other members participating. And yet, as elected members,
I was sure that the 11 members of this committee participated.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that commitment to education,
Name and shame.
will have made it 100%, so therefore there's only 8 out with,
Yeah.
which isn't really all that exciting or good, is it?
But it's one of those things, email or internet questionnaires, oh yeah, I'll get round to doing it, and then, oh, that was yesterday, I've forgotten about it, sort of thing. Alistair?
Chairman, one of the great, but one of the advantages of getting up in years of it is one can always say, and I can genuinely say with sincerity that I can't remember if I completed it or not. However, had I done so, I think the answers would have been much as what's been reflected here, and it gives the lie to one of my colleagues, council colleagues who's not here. He tells me that he always gets dozens of folks who come at his surgery. So I've always been sceptical about that. However, if we were to move away in the interest of cost, because it must cost a bit for the council to hire halls and to put adverts in, if we were to move away from that, I think I'd like to do it disengage slowly. I mean, the SNP actually has in its conditions of becoming a councillor, you must hold surgeries.
Yeah.
So, of course, if the council told me she can, that's fair enough. And there's a certain attraction, I think, in actually going and maybe sitting in Costa Coffee, and people can come in and speak to you.
Buy coffee.
Sorry?
And buy you coffee.
Other coffee shops are available in the town centre.
Well, that's interesting. That is in my ward. Yes. So, it might be a place, a more appropriate place.
Well, I must
a
admit,
drafty old hall, because the Barbara Memorial Hall in January is a dangerous place to be because it's being likely to get hypothermia.
I would have to say I get more requests for intervening as a councillor when I'm in the shop working than I've ever had at surgeries. People know where they are, and if they're in there, or they'll walk past the door. Last night I was just coming out, and one of the community councillors from Heathhall was good enough to tell me that cattle had got out into Hartness Place, and what are you doing about it? Pass.
Don't round them up.
But if people have the ability to access council services easier anyway. In olden days, I think they went through their councillor to access the services if they were needing to find out about something. Now they go online and they get an answer straight away. So I think that's something that's sort of made it less important for councillors to have surgeries, although there are people out there who still want to meet you face to face. But the majority of people, I think, now are more confident speaking to the councillor themselves rather than having to come through that member to do it.
I think, Chair, we're looking at ways of saving. I wouldn't save a huge amount of money, let's face it, but it would. I mean, every little helps. And maybe through this that we've discovered, I agree it's not very well. Maybe 19 in total, it's not very well supported. But I mean, everybody had the opportunity to do it and respond. And maybe it just should be something that, as a councillor, you do off your own bat if you feel it's important. Rather than the council having to pay for it. We have maybe there's a different way of doing things. We have our ward workers and things. We can have ward forums that can be set up, and different. I think surgeries, as you say, I think were very useful when there was no internet. You didn't get online. People didn't know who to go to, so they went to their council to get help. A lot of people who want that help now know how to get it, and they'll find you if they need you as well, because that's relatively easy too. So I think that just shows it that it's not a great number of people turning up to surgeries.
Does anybody want to add anything else to the review that came through in that? No? Right, consider the evidence. We consider that. See through the elected member questionnaire and through the paper-based research review of Have Your Say detailed at Appendix 2. Do you want to have a quick look at that one as well? happy with the sort of results of that. I think for the amount of work we do, yes, we don't like to get complaints, but I don't think if you take the amount of contact we'll have from customers, and some of that will be a case of we can't do anything for them, so that'll be a complaint because statute or legislation doesn't allow us. I don't think we've got too bad a track record, but not saying that we shouldn't look to improve. Andrew?
The only one was the planning and environment services. See, it's increased in number. Is there anything that's happened within planning and environment that would have created that increase? Or was it just
It's wondering, is it the full service or is it a specific part of the service that might be causing the issue? I know we've lost a lot of experienced planners, and the feedback I'm getting is that it's taking longer to go through the process, whereby maybe experienced planners can look at a planning application and know where to look to put the recommendations in, where young people who have just come into it or people who have came from another service into planning later in life may not be able to do it as quickly, I don't know. So it's maybe something like that, but you would need to know exactly why there was additional complaints in there. It may not be planning service itself, it may be something from another part of the system, or it may be because we've rejigged some of the services and moved some services into planning environment that may have put the complaints up.
But share with respect, what you're really highlighting then is that these figures are worthless. If you can't identify exactly where.
The highline figure of these, there are 2 extra complaints, but it's when you dig down into the actual services, they should be actually fed back to the service to say, look, you've got an issue here.
Chair, can I maybe add that the complaints information is reported at service committees for scrutiny there. So that information's been provided through 15-16 to the I committee, but also Audit and Risk Committee had an overview and a look at the whole complaints report, which included this information and further analysis, I think, in the last few weeks. So certainly there's an oversight and scrutiny of the detail behind this, which we haven't presented here today.
But the information that's sitting in Appendix 2 is for example for members to understand how many people are actually using the Have You Say or the feedback system that the council has in place. When you look at the population and potentially the number of users that are out there of council services, to have 329 complaints out of a population of 140,000 plus, and then take that down to obviously the number of people who would actually put a complaint, number of users. So it's a relatively low number. Whether that's because of the process to go through completing the form and to go through that, the online or the paper versions within libraries or online, but it does sort of give an example of how many, that process of public being able to have a say or an involvement in what we do and provide feedback, and that's obviously then fed back to departments as it's sort of broken down there.
Question, because you used to have your pen like that, Alistair, when you're going to ask a question. No?
Yes.
You want the question?
Yes, it's interesting as far as it goes, but it's obviously of limited use, because, I mean, for example, I know that it's great that the Chief Executive Service has had only 11 complaints, and this followed from 20, and the relevant director can obviously polish a halo, but it's not, you're not going to get so many complaints to us as Chief Executive Service as say to us education. So in that sense, it's a limited use, although it's interesting.
To add to that, I think it's the context of number of customer interactions that are happening relative to that as well. So particularly community and customer services, obviously frontline with customers, etc. So absolutely agree with you. It's the contextual element of it that's more important.
And also, I mean, people unfortunately had a good experience. Number of compliments 183 vis-a-vis the number of complaints. 329 people are less likely, sadly, to say that was good and well done. So probably we should pat ourselves on the back. That's probably more, twice as many of that. 50% went away and thought that was okay, but they don't bother to tell us it's really okay.
Appendix 3, we have the information with regard to consultations on members' papers. Information there. Happy to note that information. Questions on that one? No. Appendix 4, I think it's a complaints and comments, compliments section. Probably sort of ask customers. So with that, I'm happy for those sections to be included. Get this right. Included in the public involvement scrutiny review.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. We'll move on now to item 9, scrutiny review, public involvement, emerging recommendations. This report provides suggested emerging recommendations at 3.5 for our consideration on public involvement scrutiny review. Members will recall that we examined the main findings from the review at our last meeting and asked that these were developed into draft recommendations for our debate and consideration. The feedback from items 7 and 8 on the agenda will clearly add to our findings too. Andy's here to answer any questions arising from the report. We move to section 3.5. Emerging recommendations for consideration to proceed to full council. 1. A programme of public engagement should be planned, scheduled, maintained and published on the council's website. Members quite happy with that? Any comments on that one?
Can I just ask, a plan scheduled and maintained, how far in advance, because we've had a problem in Stuartry whereby the budget consultation, when it was being held in Kukubury, was 2 days before the community council were told it was happening. There was quite a lot of Stuartry community councils didn't know it was happening. So, if you're going to do that, you don't want to put things too far ahead because people don't register it, but you need to give people enough notice.
Yeah, I think.
Do you have a sort of...
I don't have a specific.
No, I'm not bringing it up as a specific, but
the idea
something
was
went wrong with the communication about that.
Yeah, I think what part of their recommendation would do was ask people to consider whether you will need consultation when you're getting down to doing a process, and that will help them work backwards to say, put it into a planned process. I think people are getting to a project and go, all right, we need to consult, and suddenly we're ending up with that 1 week before we can go ahead. So the idea that we're encouraging a timetable to be there, and people when they go, okay, we're going to consider doing a budget process, we then need to schedule in, and that's really that point. What we're saying is people should think about consultation and whether they need to do it when they come up with the idea or that discussion. So whilst there's no specific timeline, we can look to encourage managers to put it in.
I think some of the feedback from third sector and other groups was that it would be good to know about these things in advance and about whether they want to participate in them and to what extent they can participate, and having that notice and pre-planning and expectation of something coming would be helpful to them as well.
I think, for instance, if you know that there's going to be a project consultation in April, and it's going to happen in October, November, there's no harm in saying that we will be doing it, and then details will follow, just so that people have got it. But there's no point in putting the date out in April because people won't put it in the diary. So, it is just, I don't know, just
Yeah,
be better at.
Sort of going around other council websites and other organisation websites. I mean, they have a specific consultation section, public consultation. We do have kind of that, but we don't have a clear sort of thing. These are coming up, so just sort of enter in diaries. People can look forward and say there might not be consultation there, but they know that it will be coming, so they can look back on the site on a regular basis.
Item 2 was clear communication about the type of engagement activity, informing, consulting, engaging. I think that's quite important because people come to a consultation, they expect a two-way process, and sometimes we're just going out to say this is what's going to happen, and it's actually an information evening. And if they know exactly what they're coming to, then I don't think they would feel as aggrieved sometimes when they leave the meetings that, well, we never got the chance, or nobody listened to us. So I think that's quite a good idea to have that, so that we badge up what the actual engagement is. Is it engagement, is it consultation, or is it information that you're going to receive?
Absolutely.
I'm just happy with that one. Alistair?
Just a comment on the recent consultation with the public on the budget process. I've heard negative feedback from that. Yeah, we want to be consulted, but this is a representative democracy, not a participative democracy, and you're the people who we put in to accept to just make the hard decisions, and this is just you. Somebody unkindly said, well, that's so that you can shift the blame on the public. You take decisions that are unpopular. Because you're in there, you're in the kitchen, take the heat.
Somebody put that in one of the questions earlier on, I'm sure. Don't hide behind, you don't do consultation, just take the decisions. Don't hide behind the public.
Yeah, I think there's no.
Be accountable.
We're not the administration, so isn't that? No, please don't record that.
But you will.
I can't help it, it's on. Right, 3, provide information in a format that is relevant to both the audience and the timescale. The provision of summary sheets with larger documents, or in the case of shorter timescales, would be helpful. Speeding up the process and clearly directing consultees to specific areas for comment. Well, I think that would be good, because one of the comments I got last night on the budget consultation was 4 sides, was it A4 or whatever, didn't actually tell us what we could do, what we need to do, where the money's spent. Yes, education. Right, let's cut education. It doesn't actually say what services we want to cut. And they felt it was rather bland, the document. That was a community council, not my view.
That could have been right.
Do you think that's a good idea? So that, I think one of the things that came through was third sector especially, they're asked to be consulted on a lot of documents. Do they really need to answer this one, or is that one that's more appropriate to another organisation, and therefore if it is necessary, the bit that they need to concentrate on is paragraph 7 or chapter 7, because that's affecting them, whereas chapter 1 deals with private sector maybe, so that rather than going through a whole 200-page document on a consultation, they can get to the meat of the bones and say what they want. So are we happy with that? For closing the loop on consultations through timely feedback to consultees, I think that's quite important. That was something that came back, that we tell you but you don't tell us why, or if you've accepted them. So we're happy with that one?
Yeah.
Councillors to be supported by officers to provide alternative and tailored methods of public engagement. This may include reviewing the current location of surgeries to include places attracting a larger footfall for a more ad hoc and flexible engagement. There is also scope to support members in adopting modern mechanisms for public engagement such as social media, question and answers. In addition, further opportunities exist: attendance at local forums at area and ward level. It is recognised that one size does not fit all. Alistair,
This,
you're looking to get your coffee paid at Costa again.
As far as accessing social media, I'm not very good at it. As my granddaughter says, I'm not. Does this mean that members would maybe get some training in how to work these systems? Because we struggle sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, essentially that is the idea is that members can go to either the communications unit or specific officers to support you to find a different mechanism or one that might reach a different audience, as opposed to at the moment we have kind of labelled that counsellor surgery, that's how you do engagement, but we've seen through the question and answer sessions on Facebook that can actually help with officer support with a few counsellors around and located at a single venue. So actually there is flexibility, but it is officer support, and we accept that there's a need to look at different ways of engaging.
I notice Councillor Mail, he started using Facebook as a way to, it gets out to whoever's befriended you on Facebook, but he's putting out information on roads and stuff through Facebook, and he seems to get his friends will be able to share that one to other people, so he's engaging that way. Rather than a sort of two-way process, it's putting information out there to the public that he's using that for. Seems to be, he gets, oh, I saw your post on Facebook last night or something like that, so that seems to be one way to get information out anyhow. Any other points in that one? And through the review, councillors, officers and community councillors have a strong foundation of engaging with each other. There is recognition that there are ongoing organisational changes within the council and that these will have a positive effect for future public involvement.
What I wanted to add, and the reason why that one is in there, is that many of the things as we've been going through the scrutiny review have been going, oh, that doesn't work, this is failing, you want to make improvements. The actual discussion that we've had, when we've done site visits with community councils, and hopefully we'll continue to get that information back from the survey and the recent discussion, is that actually elected members' engagement with community councils is very good. Community councils appreciate it, elected members seem to use it very well. And I think it's important that we recognise where we are doing an area which is effective and that people are satisfied with that process. We can add on with the other objectives, but I think it should be a good news.
I think that came back from most of the evidence sessions. The third sector one, that came back where, yeah, you're doing a good job, but it could be better. And the same came out of the community council one where it's a good job, but there are things we could always improve. So I don't think we're doing it too badly, but like I say, there's always room for improvement. Right, and with that,
Chair, maybe just at the end of 6 there, the wording maybe needs to be changed slightly, because it's really quite a strong assumption that these will have positive effects on future public involvement. Until we've actually run it, how do we know it will definitely have a positive effect?
do you want may have?
Pardon?
Do you want may have?
I think that, yes, rather than an assumption.
Just in case.
Well, it could have, are intended to have a positive effect.
Yes.
Something along that line.
Positive, more positive.
Happy with that?
Happy.
Alistair.
Just one comment. It's important that we do engage with community councils because they are, to a greater and lesser extent, spokespersons for that area of the ward. However, I was told some time ago when I sought information about attending school council meetings that it was no longer a requirement for the schools to notify councils or councillors when it took place, and unlike pre-2007 when we had a single member for a ward and now we have multi-member wards. So now I have to seek that information, and it is forthcoming. Sometimes it's a bit sketchy, we're having a meeting next 2 months' time, but after that I don't know, and some other schools get longer programme for the whole session. So, I just wondered if that's something we should look at.
I know just recently the four of us have been asked as ward members to attend Heath Hall Primary School. You get asked to go along, sort of thing,
Yes,
rather than expected to be there every month. So it's maybe something that would be better if they were to inform councillors as well, that meetings are on if they wish to attend on such and such dates. So that's maybe something that can be fed back to school boards or parent councils now, parent forums. Parent councils. Used to be school boards. Right. Have a look at those. If we go through the recommendations on item 9, note progress and actions taken for the public involvement scrutiny review. Review and agree the evidence and analysis to date from the scrutiny review detailed in the appendix, which has been updated since the last report to this committee on the 30th of August.
Reviewed and agreed.
Review and consider emerging recommendations detailed in paragraph 3.5 to be presented to full council, along with that minor wording adjustment.
Reviewed and considered.
Alright, yeah, thank you for that. Move on to item 10. Scrutiny review, access to services and use of public building. Feedback from paper-based research. This report outlines the results from the paper-based research to answer the gaps we identified at the previous committee on this review. Melinda, it's your turn for any awkward questions. Is there anything within the report on paper-based review that we would like to pick up on?
Sorry, Chair, maybe this one is, or the next one. With regards to school lets, which has been a bit of a bugbear of mine all the way through, we never actually see the different schools, whether we're doing it better in one place than another. It's just a general, that they're used 83% of the time. I don't know if it's in this one or is that in the next one, maybe it is. No, it's in this one. The available additional hours in the PP contract are usage is 83%, but I don't know whether that means that's across the board in every school, or whether one school is managing to utilise its hours better than another, and if that's the case, why? It doesn't go into any depth, if you know what I mean, and I think it would, because sometimes you do get a head teacher or somebody within the school that is very good at using all these facilities, and others could learn from it, and we don't know that from this. It's very general.
I think when there was a report at the last SIPL meeting.
Yes.
It sort of identified that Stranraer seemed to use more hours than other schools across the region in the PPP, and a lot of that was the fact that it was based on additional use of the playing fields, because you've got the that was what the team thing was. However, because you've got the additional playing field, you think that, therefore the usage was based on the playing field. Well, there may be someone on the playing field, but there's another 3 or 4 classrooms actually being used for other activities, but that wasn't picked up in the report, owing to the fact that if the school's open for an hour, however many people are in it, or however many rooms are used, it's still open for that additional hour.
So we're not really
So the information that was coming back was, it is used for that hour, but whether it's being effectively used for that hour, or whether there's just opened the toilet block, that may be the thing to use if the kids are there training and they need to use the toilet. The janitors may be there opening the toilet block. But,
I just feel through you, Chair, that, you know, if we're going to find out, we could do it a bit more detailed, because it doesn't really tell us, okay? It doesn't really tell us anything, except that we are using them, but we don't know how and where, and if we can improve some places.
Anything else on the paper-based evidence? So the recommendations are, we're asked to consider the evidence, which we have done, and agree this should be added to the evidence gathered for this access to service and use of public health and scrutiny review, and see if there's any way we can actually get more information. That's maybe a recommendation in itself, to go back to the schools, that that's something they need to look at for a different way of actually getting information and presenting it to members.
Yeah. And it's just that if there's one, if some schools doing it really well, maybe others can do the same, or maybe they can't, but I mean, it'd be good to know.
We'll bring that back.
Thank you. So I don't know how do we put that in as part of the recommendation, Chair, or do we?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
been picked up from
Okay. Thank you.
Agreed.
Item 11, scrutiny review, access to services and use of public buildings, draft recommendation. This report provides suggested emerging recommendations for our consideration in the access to services scrutiny review. Members will recall that we examined the main findings from the review at our last meeting, and that these were developed into draft recommendations for our debate and consideration. The feedback from item 10 on the agenda will clearly add to our findings too. Melinda's here to answer any questions. If we go to 3.5 again, I think this summarises the sort of recommendations that are coming forward that appear in the appendix. 1. Clear promotion of buildings and services which are available for the public to hire, including through the use of advertising and an improved web page, ensuring the public is aware about how to access buildings. This should include all facilities, information on pricing, facilities, details, and the potential to book online. So therefore, we're making it easier for people to access the buildings. I think that's something that we should be doing after that recommendation.
I just have a slight concern. If it says with the potential to book online, so there still will be the opportunity to walk in and book, because we can't do it all online.
Yeah.
You know, our area doesn't allow us to do that really, because it's unreliable. So that's okay.
So I was just going to add, I mean, the idea is at the moment we don't do any ability to book online or submit a form, and that was a gap that was highlighted at the visit to Nunn.
To Nunn, absolutely.
About the ability where people can actually go on and see what's available and actually do the search without making a phone call and then getting pushed around to different departments.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it's an absolute way forward, definitely, but not to the extent that I can't go in and book.
Then 2, the simple single entry point for accessing and booking council facilities which can be shared across services. So a one-stop shop utilising both online and physical venues for booking. So that would be like going to Mid-Steeple for booking your swim session, your curling session, or if you want to go to the theatre, etc.
What if you want to go to something in Kirkcudbright?
Then you should be able to do it in Dumfries. Why do you have to go to Kirkcudbright?
I know, but do you think, realistically, that would work?
Well, if I knew that I could book any venue or any event at Mid-Steeple, I'd be happy to go into Mid-Steeple and say I want to book 2 tickets for...
But we're doing this is going to be using both online and physical venues for booking, absolutely. But if it's going to be a single entry point, we're not going to have lots of physical venues, because that defeats the object of the exercise, if I'm being perfectly honest.
But then if you go to a customer services centre in Kirkcudbright, why can't you book something in Dumfries and Kirkcudbright?
Well, one would hope that you could, but... So,
therefore, if you can do it in Kirkcudbright, you should be able to do it in Dumfries for Kirkcudbright.
Oh yes, I get that, but you know, if we're wanting to streamline it all, it really should just be one But that wouldn't work in this area, would it? I
But
think it would have
if
to
you
be
need
done.
physical venues, you can
Yes.
you could streamline it down to the service centre,
Yeah, I
contact centre. That's
think
what
that's-
I would be looking
Was
at.
that what we would be looking to do? And then also online, so that you could do it online across. So if you could do it from home and you could go to something in Sederunt and something in Langham on your computer if you felt like it.
Try and make it as easy as possible to
I could be a-
access.
Easy accessibility.
I think the recommendation is to say that to ask services to look at this.
Yes.
You know, whether, you know, the extent of possibility across service, but the idea should be that if you can go into a customer service centre and say, I'd like to, you know, go to something or book something, then you should be able to at least go through the process with that
Yes.
person there. You know.
But I think that's really good because, to be perfectly honest, you know, the customer service is there, we need to use them. And this would be one way of making them a valuable part of the community. Absolutely.
Andrew?
Could you build in then sort of a loyalty bonus program whereby the more you utilise a facility, the more you're going to get a discount?
It's another.
I think that's good.
A loyalty system. There are things if you're a community group in an organisation that book more than 10 weeks in a row, then you will get VAT off your bookings. So there are systems out there which encourage. I'm talking about physical activity, so they're built in. I'm trying to think. We can put it in the recommendations if you so wished. If that was.
One of the things I was thinking about recently was, you know, that my two boys cuddle. Now, if you go to the cuddle, you pay so much per night for your training. Now, if you said, right, it's 3 nights a week training over a season of 20 odd weeks at, I think it's up to 370 or 380 now, but 390 I think for your current, and you made it X amount over the thing, guarantee you, if you made a block booking so you could do the whole thing, they wouldn't access all those dates. So you could take maybe 3 or 4% or 10% off the price, and you still get more money in because they wouldn't use all the dates than what if they paid individually. Because if you take football clubs, it's £12 a month. Some football clubs direct debit, and if you go training, it's still £12 a month, and if you don't go training, it's £12 a month. And they get the money every month, but the people may or may not be there. Whereas a single purchase, every time you go, you only get who turns up.
But there are membership schemes across the council there, and the Profiles Plus, which has changed recently into the one fee, which has reduced the price of attending gym facilities and included badminton and hall hire and area within it for 25. So there is recognition for people paying up front within a leisure and sport structure. In respect to hiring facilities, you know, generally whether it be a meeting room or I think if you do, I'm trying to remember, I believe it's 10 weeks and they have to be a regular period, then you will get a reduction in VAT, unless of course there's a break, there is sort of legislation that goes behind it. So there are ways, maybe we need to promote more to community groups that if you're going to have 12 committees in the year and you want to hire you know, a committee room over at the Blue Street, well, book them at the start of the year, because as long as they're regular running, then you'll get a reduction in the cost of that higher facility. So maybe that comes back to that promotion thing in the first recommendation.
Do you want to add a recommendation around that and get back to you?
Okay.
Number 3. 3, ensure flexibility for facility provision, whereby local agreements can be established with partner organisations. The example given. I think that's something that needs to happen, because if they can run facilities out with the time we're running them, it may be beneficial to both parties. It makes them more viable and they could bring some income into the council. Happy with that one? Investigate the opportunities to address duplication of services to different customers through co-location. And that was Aberdeenshire and Lanarkshire, where we had the library and the school on the same campus. it's one of those ones that would be something that we look at in the future, I think, whereby if you are building new schools, then you integrate services there rather than possibly
we tried
backfilling.
We tried it in Dalbeattie, and the shop doctor said don't do it, don't take the library out of the main street, so we missed the opportunity in Dalbeattie because it would have been a good thing, but wasn't to be.
Alistair.
Yes, Chair, and we're talking about schools and considering the rollout of preschool provision. I have done a piece of work and noticed that where there are private providers for nursery education, the council has, I think, taken inappropriate decisions in trying to bring in nurseries in neighbouring schools. Whereas, often out in the rural areas, there is neither provision for school nurseries nor private provision. And this will have three effects actually. We might be unable to meet our statutory obligations to deliver. Two, it might have a severe impact on some of these private nurseries which are in juxtaposition with school nurseries. And three, it could damage the viability of some of the rural schools because parents' work pattern is such that they will take their child, if need be, to the nearest nursery provision, and then they tend to graduate to a school in whose area the nursery was. Just that for that one.
Yeah, because we've seen that last year. I saw that through Lochhaven Primary, where they had a nursery, and kids from outlying rural schools wanted to go to Lochhaven Primary rather than their local one because, well, little Jeannie's pals are at Lochhaven, and it's just natural that you don't want to break up that movement through school.
But that militates against the high level council priority of creating vibrant towns and villages.
Yes.
If we're going to make the rural schools environable through. I'm not saying it's done deliberately, but it needs a bit of forethought. So I don't know how we can get this into the recommendation.
Very appropriate.
Yes.
Some of the duplication service, more our own services, whereby could we have, like the librarians doing a school library and their own one, or having the facility just as one facility rather than having to have, you know, a librarian for each service. If they could do the one, just, I think that was the main reason, rather than denying people opportunity to run their own businesses. As in, I think that's happened elsewhere, where you put a new nursery in a place, like you say, that's attracted kids away from private sector businesses. So, where appropriate, maybe the best way to do that one. Any other points on duplication of services? Consider developing a programme for the development of community sports hub models, which can be monitored and encourage clubs and organisations to come forward with new opportunities. This should also include hubs being established, developed, which do not work from a council facility. I think I'm happy with that. Review the operating procedures of community sports hubs linked to the council facilities, such as fob entries, staffing requirements and pricing structures. And that came in the back of the Dumfries Sports Club, whereby there was easy access there. You didn't need to staff out with hours. You had your own way of getting in, and people knew who were in at the appropriate times. Happy with that? And work in partnership with organisations and associations which provide services which meet the needs, aspirations of the council, ensuring support through reduced bureaucracy and signposting, both physical, public signs and officer communication. The public to their services, as opposed to trying to deliver competing services. Andrew?
Just a slight addition to the wording where it goes, which provide services which meet the needs and aspirations of the council and communities. I don't think it should just be the council, I think it's the communities, because the council is supposed to be delivering to the communities, and I think it should be included within there. And the reason I also add that in is that I think that we do need to look at how we work in partnership, because with the closure of police stations and NHS also not being readily available in certain communities, we need to look at having desks where somebody behind that desk can deliver as much information as possible on all of the organisations like that. So yeah, I'm very much up for working in partnership with organisations.
Comments on that one? No? Right. Luke, again.
I'd like to make a point that it is quite important that councils should show support to organisations and associations that they want to support the communities. And if there are any problems or misunderstanding at some point, I think maybe as a council should go forward as a leader, showing your leadership and reconciliating with the communities that you have any kind of problems. Try to make the community better.
Yeah. So I think that's one of the things we try and do, whether we achieve it. And the point is you'll have two different people with two different ideas of what leadership is. And, one's dictatorship and the other one's encouraging people to come along with it. Patsy?
Yes, it's just at 2.3 of the recommendation, which is what we've been looking at. I just noticed on the very last thing, it's analysis of what members identified during discussions. I think that would be quite a useful thing to be put in to this, just to, because it sort of kind of explains how we came to our decision, if you know what I mean, and it's quite useful for everybody else who hasn't been doing this, why we thought that you know, certain things were needed to be changed or improved or whatever, because it explains why we came to us. Might be useful as an add-on somewhere.
I think they do form part of the report that goes to full council.
Does it? I wasn't sure.
Whether it could be presented more on the back of just the recommendation and why.
Don't know how to do it, but it does.
The actual appendix.
I'm sure all of it.
We usually do a forward from the chair, so we'll use that language and as the forward for the chair.
Okay.
If I was content with that.
So these points, that, you know, the reason we've come to the conclusions because these were the things that. Yeah. I think it makes it clearer to people.
We can bring that out, and I think, given that there's some further information you're looking for, and there's a couple of additional recommendations that we need to form for you, we'll bring this back in December just for your final sign off on that basis.
Okay. Good. Thank you.
Right, so to go to the recommendations, note of progress and actions taken under point 1, point 2, review and agree the evidence and analysis to date from the scrutiny review, detailed in the appendix, which has been updated since the last report to this committee on 30th of August. So we had one or two rewording changes and things as well. Review and consider the emerging recommendations detailed in paragraph 3.5 to be presented to the council, and to also accept that will be coming back to our next meeting just for sign off. We're happy with that. Any other business? I have nothing. Thank you all for your attendance.